Welcome, everyone, and thank you so much for joining our live reading of the hours today in support of mental health. We are so excited for you all to be here. My name is Vanessa Maribal, and I'm an advocate for social justice and mental health awareness. I've produced and directed content promoting LGBT rights and women's rights over the past decade, and I'm so excited to have you all here today. I'm currently obtaining my doctorates in leadership and want to help promote mental health in a time when many people are struggling due to the loss of human connection that we have all collectively experienced this past year. So before we start our reading, I'm going to briefly talk about why we're here today and about some of these amazing organizations that we highly encourage you all to please either donate your time, or if you can donate any amount of money, it helps these organizations out tremendously. And people need mental health resources. So I'm going to talk a little bit about this project and why we're here. Actress and author Morgan Toll has organized a place called Act for One Life, where actors can come together on a quarterly basis and perform and read scripts that promote certain organizations. So it's a chance for us where we can express creatively while supporting causes that we are passionate about by making them easily accessible to our audience with a simple click of a button. We've created this amazing website where all these organizations are there laid out for you, resources for mental health. So please go to our website and check that out. We have incredible organizations that help support suicide prevention, mental health in general. And I want to talk to you a little bit about some of the statistics. So I want you to understand the importance of mental health for everyone, but especially for teens and marginalized groups. Suicide is the second leading cause of death among young people ages 10 to 24. That is extremely concerning to me. 1 out of 6 students nationwide, grades 9 through 12, so in high school, have seriously considered suicide in the past year. And you can only imagine how much that has went up with this recent pandemic. So 92% of these individuals reported having attempted suicide before the age of 25. With everything going on in politics today regarding, trans rights and LGBT people's rights, we need to remember that young people are directly affected by these decisions we make. I want you all to consider this fact for one moment. LGBTQ youth are 2 times as likely to commit suicide compared to their heterosexual counterparts. And even more alarming is that Black teens are 4 times as likely to commit suicide. We have an amazing and selfless guest joining us today. Her name is Rasa Dawson from Strong Minds, one of these incredible nonprofit organizations that we have listed as a resource on our website. Strong Minds supports mental health for marginalized groups, and we encourage you all to please donate to this amazing organization through our website link below. So now I'm going to hand it over to Rasa. Rasa, thank you so much for all the incredible work you do. I will now give you the floor so you can talk about the importance of mental health, specifically for marginalized groups and the mission behind Strong Minds. So Rasa, I'll go ahead and hand it over to you now.
Great. Thank you so much for supporting us, Vanessa.
Yes, and thank you for being here.
Yeah, and thank you to all the viewers who may be moved to make a donation to Strong Minds. In Africa, 66 million women suffer from depression, and 85% of them have no access to treatment. Strong Minds provides highly effective, cost-efficient, community-based therapy to the most impoverished women and adolescents in Uganda and Zambia. With over 80% of the women and adolescents we treat becoming depression-free, we see far-reaching impacts for their families and their communities. When a woman is depression-free, her kids go to school more often, her family eats more meals a day, and her household economic productivity increases. When we treat adolescents in school, we impact their lives profoundly and allow them to avoid decades of depressive episodes. To date, we've treated nearly 80,000 individuals, and we are striving to scale our model across the continent with the audacious goal of ending the depression epidemic in Africa. Thank you again for having us. We're so excited to be part of this.
Yes, thank you so much. So thank you everyone who has joined. I know more people are joining now that Rasa started talking. And I just want to encourage you all again to please donate to Strong Minds specifically. You know, Rasa gave us an excellent description of how important it is for people with, you know, certain groups who are impacted more with mental health issues. So again, go to our link below and please donate to Strong Minds, which is just one of the nonprofits we are supporting today with this event. So today we encourage you to support many organizations. The JED Foundation is a nonprofit organization that protects emotional health and prevents suicide for teens and young adults in the United States. So the JED Foundation is also listed as a nonprofit organization we encourage you to donate to. The Trevor Project is a nonprofit organization and is one of my favorite organizations. It's focused on suicide prevention efforts among lesbian, gay, bisexual, queer, and questioning youth. Strong Minds, which Rasa gave us an excellent description of, is an organization that treats depression in African American women, as she described, empowering them to lead more healthy and productive lives, which is the ripple effect amongst the communities, as she explained so greatly. Okay, so we also have inclusive therapists. And therapists are a very important resource. So I encourage you to check out Inclusive Therapists. It's a movement centering on mental health needs of Black, Indigenous, Hispanic, and people of color in general, and people with disabilities. So by giving them a simple way to find culturally responsive, social justice oriented therapists, these organizations can help specific groups get through these mental health issues, especially suicide prevention, which is a really something that's really important right now. These organizations are all close to our hearts, and we hope that during this time you will click on the link below and find ways that you can get involved and help in whatever way you can. So we chose to do this reading today of the hours because it in so many ways stresses the importance of mental health awareness and how depression can show up differently in every person. The story focuses on the lives of 3 women from different time periods who are all connected by a novel called Mrs. Dalloway. These 3 women from different generations all share similar struggles with depression and suicide. So if you or someone you know is having thoughts of suicide, please know that there are resources out there and you're not alone. So by putting this project together, we want to start compiling these resources so they can be easily accessible to everyone. And we've started doing that. So check out our website below. And know that, you know, you're never alone, but if you are having these thoughts of suicide, call the suicide prevention phone number. It's 1-800-273-8255, which is also listed in our description below in our live YouTube event. The helpline number is a great resource if you're having immediate suicidal thoughts. The Trevor Project also has a suicide line, which you can check out specifically for LGBTQ teens. So this reading is rated PG-13 for language. I want you all to be aware. And it does have suicidal events or drugs. So this is a trigger warning, which states if you're triggered by those events, you should be aware that this reading does contain those things. So we will have an intermission halfway through the script, and I hope you will all stay with us throughout the entire experience. We have an amazing guest speaker today. Her name is Olivia Holt. She was a Disney star and she's an actress, singer. She recently starred in the film Cloak and Dagger, if you are all familiar with. And she has another show coming out very soon. And she has prepared what mental health means to her. So during the intermission, I hope you will stay tuned for that. Also, we have talented author and acting coach Morgan Toll. She's going to be giving away 10 free audiobooks during the intermission. So I just need you all to comment on our Facebook Live comment section. And we're going to be giving away these 10 free audiobooks of The Daydreamer. And The Daydreamer is about a boy who needs to believe in himself in order to get the courage to pursue his dreams. So I encourage you all to stick around for the intermission, comment on our YouTube Live page, and we will be giving out the 10 audiobooks. So during the intermission, we will have the 15 minutes. Our actors will come back on and we will continue the second part of the reading. So here we are. Now I am excited to announce our actors for this evening's event. We have narrator / stage directions by Ian Ampoyo. We have Virginia Wolf, played by Morgan Toll. We have Clarissa Vaughn, played by Jessie Holcomb. We have Laura Brown, played by Amber Dawson. We have Richard and Leonard, played by Tariq Evans. We have Sally, played by Jessica Adcock. We have Vanessa, played by Madison Kirsten. We have Dan, played by Jen January. We have Lewis, played by Addison Grace. We have Kitty, played by Lexi Gable. We have Richie, Julian, Quentin, and the boys, played by Avon Courtney. We have Angelica and Julia, played by Bailey Crisp. We have the maid, Barbara, Nellie, and Mrs. Latch, played by Rachel Petty. We have the doctor, the neighbor, Lottie, Ralph, and the clerk, and the min, played by Grace Kubis. So thank you all again for joining us today. We will now begin our reading of The Hours, written by Michael Cunningham, adapted by Michael Hare. Excuse me. The Hours, written by David Hare, adapted by Morgan, what is it? Adapted by Michael Hare, written by Michael Cunningham, right?
Correct.
Okay, great. So everyone get ready. We have an amazing read prepared for you with some incredible actors. And I encourage you to stay with us through the end, through the intermission. And at the end of this amazing read, we're going to be talking with the actors about what nonprofit organizations are important to them. And we begin.
Fade in. Exterior, Monk's House, Rodmell, England, day. A river flows not far from a small house in the Sussex countryside. Superimposed Sussex, England, 1941. It is the 28th of March, a desolate gray morning, as a woman of 59, very thin, in a huge overcoat with a fur collar, comes out of the house and hurries across the lawn. The edge of the lawn turns into a grassy, open field as she carries on her way, moving quickly, determinedly towards her destination. Exterior River Ooze day. The woman reaches an embankment and has to clamber down to a brackish, mud-brown river ooze. Her elegant, unsuitable shoes stick in the mud. The woman is seen more closely, her face pale, fine, gaunt. As soon as she gets to the river's edge, she looks round for a suitable stone. She sees one lying on the ground, the size and shape of a pig's skull. She picks it up and crams it a little clumsily into the pocket of her coat. Then Virginia Woolf turns and, without taking off her shoes, begins to wade out into the river. Exterior, interior, Monk's house, day. Leonard Woolf is coming in from the garden on the other side of the house. At this point, he is 61. He has muddy corduroys and a pullover, the very picture of the aging intellectual, austere, ascetic, with a fine forehead and glasses. He comes distractedly into a small hallway at the back of the house and starts taking off his Wellington boots, unaware of anything wrong. Interior, Monk's house, sitting room, day. 2 blue envelopes are propped up on the mantelpiece. In handwriting, the single word Leonard is on one. The single word Vanessa is on the other. Leonard's hand reaches to lift his envelope, leaving the other where it is. He stands, fearful. The sitting room of the house is bohemian, casual, artistic, attractive. A young maid comes into the room, unaware of the drama that is about to unfold.
Are you ready for lunch, sir?
Not quite. Not just at the moment.
The maid goes out. Leonard, still in his gardening clothes, is tense as he opens the envelope. He unfolds 2 blue pages. Virginia Woolf's voice is heard as he reads the letter.
Dearest, I feel certain that I'm going mad again. I feel we can't go another of these terrible times, and I shan't recover this time. I begin to hear voices and can't concentrate. So I'm doing what seems the best thing to do.
Leonard looks up, alarmed, beginning to panic.
You have given me the greatest possible happiness. You have been in every way all that anyone could be. I know that I'm spoiling your life, and without me you could work. And you will, I know.
Exterior, Monk's house, Rodmell, day. Leonard runs back down to pull on his Wellington boots, then runs out of the back room. He comes out of the house and moves rapidly down the lawn. Terrified, he begins to run as the river comes in sight. Meanwhile,
You see, I can't even write this properly. I want to say is that I owe all the happiness of my life to you. You've been entirely patient with me and incredibly good. Everything is gone from me except the certainty of your goodness. I can't go on spoiling your life any longer. I don't think 2 people could have been happier than we have been.
Leonard has reached the edge of the river. He sees a woman's footprints in the mud. He looks out across its empty, flowing surface.
Virginia.
Exterior, river, day. At once the image of Virginia Woolf's body, face down, swirling fantastically like a Catherine wheel, back on the surface of the water, and carried along by the current. Her hair is unloosed, her coat has billowed out. Her body swirls, moving fast downstream, wildly festooned like Ophelia, and comes to rest against an underwater pillar and curls up like a baby as the water catches the corpse against the stone. It is caught against the stanchion of a bridge. Over the bridge in convoy, a line of army trucks is passing, loaded with soldiers in transit. The convoy passes over, ignorant of the corpse beneath the bridge. Exterior, interior, the Browns' house, Los Angeles, dawn, credit sequence. Now a delivery truck moves down a suburban street. Superimposed Los Angeles, 1951. The credits begin. It is only just past dawn as the truck passes a car coming from the opposite direction. The car approaches a 1-level, small detached house, which sits secure, confident, a family image of post-war America. Then the car draws up in the drive, and from it gets out Dan Brown, a sturdy, handsome American just turning 30. He wears suit trousers and a white open-neck shirt. He wears and is carrying a bunch of white roses. He lets himself in through the front door and moves, roses in hand, along past the sitting room with its pastel shades and low, sparse furniture into the kitchen. As he reaches for a vase, he looks towards the door of a nearly darkened bedroom, which is open at the back of the house. A few rays of light from the window help pick out shapes. And the bedroom, Laura Brown, A few years older than Dan is lying asleep in the bed. She is small, angular, and fragile. She turns a moment in her sleep. Exterior Hogarth House, Richmond, dawn 1923. Superimposed Richmond, England 1923. A younger Leonard Wolfe, only 43, is walking past the church, carrying a newspaper and a pile of envelopes and packages he has collected. This suburban quarter, half an hour away from London, is rich with flowers, lawns, trees. In the other direction come the morning commuters, dark-coated men on their way to the station at work. Beside the church is a big gray stoned house, its great face unmoving in the dawn. Interior, Hogarth House, Hall and Gallery, dawn. Leonard Wolfe opens the door of the house and goes into the hall, which is lined with paintings. He puts down the packages and paper and looks up in time to see a man in his 60s, obviously a doctor. He carries a doctor's bag and is in a dark coat, coming down the stairs, heading to have a word with him.
Ah, doctor, good morning.
Mr. Wolf, no worse, I think. The main thing is to keep her where she is. Keep her calm.
Friday then?
Friday.
Their conversation is left behind. Upstairs on the first floor, beyond the banisters of an open gallery, is the room the doctor has come out of. Inside the bedroom, the woman is alone. She is lying chastely, blinds down at the windows. She is the younger Virginia Woolf, now only 41. She is staring up at the ceiling. Exterior, interior, Clarissa's apartment, New York, dawn 2001. Superimposed New York City, 2001. A subway train rattles violently past and a lone woman is left standing on the platform. At street level, the sun is just about to rise down West 10th, one of the leafiest and most pleasant streets in the village. The woman, Sally Lester, is walking quickly down the Don Street, returning home. She is tall, dark, dynamic, in her late 30s, wearing a leather jacket and jeans. She approaches a high red brick terraced house, goes up the steps and lets herself in through its white painted front door. Sally goes up the first floor apartment, which she also unlocks. Sally walks straight through the living room of quiet, Bloomsbury bourgeois homeliness, terracotta and pine, clay post, ceramics, plants, and massive numbers of books. She goes down a corridor into a warm-colored bedroom, light beginning now against large blinds. Sally sheds clothes as she goes, taking off her leather jacket and jeans, stripping down to a t-shirt and knickers. She gets into the bed, does nothing to wake the apparently sleeping figure beside her. Clarissa Vaughn is short of 50, tall, splendid, beside the smaller Sally. Clarissa does not react visibly, but a moment after Sally closes her eyes, Clarissa opens hers. Interior montage, all of the above, all dawn, 2001, 1951, and 1923. In the montage, Dan Brown stands in the bedroom in front of the mirror, tying his tie. Clarissa throws back the sheet from the bed and gets up. She comes into the small bathroom in her white nightgown, ties her hair back behind her head. Laura, awake now, reaches for a book which is lying at the side of her bed. As her hand reaches for it, the title is clearly seen, Mrs. Dalloway. Virginia sits alone in her bedroom in her dressing gown, looking at herself in the mirror, then lifts her fingers to adjust her hair. Water pours onto Clarissa's face in the shower as she reaches her naked arm out in front of her to grope for the tap, invisible in steam. Dan sets out the breakfast things at the kitchen table for 3 people and goes and spoons himself Nescafe into a mug. He pours on hot water. Clarissa, in a robe, goes to fill her percolator from a kitchen sink, which is full of live crabs and water. Virginia completes dressing, checks herself neatly in the mirror, walks down the corridor, and stands for a moment at the top of the stairs, readying herself. Clarissa comes into her living room, stands in the middle with her remote control, and adjusts the lighting, then turns on a classical radio station. Laura arranges the pillows to enjoy a luxurious few moments of reading. She turns to listen for the sound of her husband in the kitchen. In succession, the 3 women suspended, Virginia pausing, Clarissa looking around satisfied with the environment she has created, Laura listening. Then one thing disturbs Clarissa, a bunch of sorry dead-looking flowers in the corner of the room. She shakes her head in irritation. Dan brings roses from the sink and puts the vase on the kitchen table. As he does so, another vase is put down by a maid's hands, this time with a bunch of blue cornflowers. As it goes down, echoing the identical motion from 28 years later, the credits end. Interior Hogarth House, Hall and Gallery, day 1923. The vase of cornflowers is seen to be on a table in the open hall of Hogarth House. Leonard Woolf is sitting, eating toast, drinking coffee, and already proofreading a manuscript. He looks up at the sound of Virginia appearing from upstairs.
Good morning, Leonard.
Good morning, Virginia. How was your sleep?
Uneventful.
The headaches?
No, no headaches.
The doctor seemed pleased.
Virginia helps herself to tea from the table and nods at the mail.
And that's all from this morning?
Yes, this young man has submitted his manuscript. I found 3 errors of fact and 2 misspellings, and I'm not even on page 4 yet.
Leonard is watching her all the time and sees that she is not planning to sit down.
Have you had breakfast?
Yes.
Liar.
Leonard's tone is casual. He has the quiet, tactful manner of a good nurse.
Virginia, it is not my instances. It's the wish of your doctors.
Virginia just looks at him, not answering.
I'm going to send Nellie up with a bun and some fruit.
Again, Virginia looks at Leonard disobediently.
Very well then. Lunch. A proper lunch. Husband and wife sitting down to soup, pudding and all. By force, if necessary.
Leonard, I may believe I have a first sentence.
Leonard looks her in the eye, knowing how stubborn she is.
Work, then. But then you must eat.
Interior Hogarth House, study, day. Virginia goes into her plain, serene study and sits down, picking up a board on which she writes. There's an inkwell, a fountain pen. She lights a cigarette, then charged with quiet excitement, she opens a clean notebook, a blank page. Then a feeling of pleasure appears on her face in the hushed room. Before writing, she tries her sentence out loud.
Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself.
Interior, Brown's house, Los Angeles, 1951. Laura is lying on the bed, luxuriating in a moment of being alone. She reaches for the copy of Mrs. Dalloway beside her bed, and she opens it. She smiles in anticipated pleasure. She speaks out loud.
Mrs. Dalloway said she would buy the flowers herself.
Interior, Clarissa's apartment, New York, 2001. Clarissa is standing in the middle of the living room, frowning, as if wondering what she should do. Then she calls out to Sally, unseen in the other room.
Sally, I think I'll buy the flowers myself.
Interior, Clarissa's apartment, bedroom, day. Sally, still lying in bed, blearily reacts to what she has heard.
What? What flowers?
And then she remembers what day it is. Sally starts to get out of bed.
Oh shit, I'd forgotten.
Sally falls back on the bed. Interior, Brown's house, day, 1951. A 5-year-old boy is watching as cereal is poured into a bowl. Laura and Dan's son, Richie, is sitting at the table as Dan prepares his breakfast. Richie is in pajamas, a sensitive little boy, his face unable to censor his shifting feelings. Dan is in shirt and tie, his jacket neatly hung on the back of a chair.
There you are, son. You're never going to be a big boy if you don't eat your breakfast. You're going to be the big brother. It's a very important job.
Is mommy getting up this morning?
Of course she is. Of course mommy's getting up. She just needs to rest. Huh, look, here she is.
And indeed, Laura has now appeared in the doorway, the bulge of an early to midterm pregnancy visible. Lara shakes her head at the sight of the white roses on the table. There's something odd, distant in her manner.
Happy birthday.
Morning, honey.
Oh, Dan, roses on your own birthday? You're too much, really.
Hell yeah, now that you're here.
Dan gestures at Richie.
It's your birthday. You shouldn't be out buying me flowers.
Well, you were still sleeping.
So?
Well, we decided it would be better if we let you sleep in a little, didn't we?
Dan smiles conspiratorially at his son. Lara reaches down and kisses Richie.
Good morning, Bug.
You need to rest, Laura. You're only 4 months away.
Honestly, I'm fine. I'm just tired.
Dan touches her stomach tenderly. Lara smiles, but then slips away. She pours herself coffee. Dan is putting his jacket on over his dazzling white shirt, readying himself for work.
I've been telling him he's got to eat his breakfast.
That's true.
So it's a beautiful day. What are you two going to be doing with it?
Oh, we've got our plans, haven't we?
What plans?
Well, it wouldn't be much of a party, would it, if I told you every detail in advance?
Then I'd better stop asking questions then, huh?
Dan grins at Richie, the whole performance for his benefit.
Ooh, hey, is that the time? I'd better get going.
Dan is looking at his watch. It's a morning ritual, the same every day. He gathers his briefcase and heads for the door in haste.
Have a good day.
You too.
And Dan?
Dan stops at the door.
Happy birthday.
Thank you.
Dan's gone. Without him, the room feels silent. Richie looks at his mother as if she's nervous at being left alone with Richie. Lara waves goodbye to Dan outside in the drive, then turns back to Richie.
You need to finish your breakfast.
That's what I'm doing.
Lara comes and sits at the table. Richie watches her expectant.
So, I'm going to make a cake. That's what I'm going to do. I'm going to make the cake for Daddy's birthday.
Mommy, can I help?
Well,
Can I help make the cake?
Lara frowns a second as if regretting her son's eagerness.
of course you can, sweet pea. I'm not going to do anything without you.
Interior, Clarissa's apartment, day. Sally appears from the bedroom and looks down to the living room, where she sees Clarissa can be heard on the phone. Sally is pulling on her jeans. The whole apartment is submerged in books, bound proofs, hardbacks, and manuscripts.
No, of course you must come. I mean it. Oh, I always want you to come, and everyone involved in the actual ceremony.
Clarissa acknowledges Sally with a wave of the hand. Sally turns and goes into the kitchen, while Clarissa goes back to the phone.
Well, I don't know. Around 60? Well, it will mean so much, the whole occasion. And so the least I can do is have you all to dinner, just to say thank you. I mean it, of course.
Sally has gone into the kitchen to pour hot coffee. She looks into the sink at the wriggling crabs.
My God, what if nobody comes? I suppose we can live for a month off of crustaceans.
Sally comes back into the room with her coffee and watches Clarissa, who is still working her charm on the phone. Sally mimics her wordlessly.
Oh, I take that as a yes. Oh, that's great. Yeah, I'm thrilled. Oh, good.
Sally smiles affectionately at how characteristic of Clarissa this whole conversation has been. Exterior, West 10th Street, New York Day, 2001. The sun is shining as Clarissa appears at the top of the little run of steps from her apartment and heads cheerfully out into 10th Street. It's a dazzling day. Exterior, Washington Square, day. Clarissa heads down Fifth Avenue in good spirits. Rappers go by, skateboarders. A few passers-by greet her as she moves through the district, a familiar figure at ease in her favorite quarter. She is on a mobile phone, still making her arrangements for the party.
This is Clarissa Vaughn. Yes, I'm just confirming that you'll send the car to pick me up first. Yeah, and then we're going.
Hi, Clarissa.
Hi, can't talk right now. And then we're going over to 67.5 Hudson. And that's right, between 14th and 9th, then uptown. And there I will need you to wait. And it will be over at 7.
Exterior Spring Street day. Now Clarissa is pausing for traffic and walking across Spring Street towards an exquisite flower shop, which is decked in buckets of summer blooms. Clarissa heads cheerfully towards the glass door and goes in. Interior flower shop day. Clarissa goes in the chic little flower shop and raises her arms a little to greet the owner. Her name is Barbara, in her 50s, pale with dark hair.
Flowers! Oh, what a beautiful morning.
Barbara kisses Clarissa and puts an arm around her, the two of them at ease.
Clarissa, hi. How are you?
I'm having a party. My friend Richards won the Carruthers.
Well, that's just terrific. If I knew what that was.
It's a poetry prize for a life's work. It's the most prestigious. For a poet, it's the best you can do.
Oh, very good.
Clarissa is proud on Richard's behalf, but Barbara is already pointing along the rows of flowers.
So what would you like? We've got loads of lilies.
No, too morbid. Hydrangeas, I think. And let's just have buckets of roses. Whatever, to hell with it. Spare no expense.
Clarissa picks out one bunch of flowers.
I'm going to take these with me.
Barbara gets out armfuls of yellow roses and takes them to the desk, while an assistant takes the ones Clarissa has picked out to take back herself. Clarissa wanders up the other end. Now Barbara is cutting the stalks and wrapping them.
I actually tried to read Richard's novel.
Oh, did you? I know. It's not easy.
Barbara smiles, not unkindly at the understatement.
I know. It did take him 10 years to write.
Yeah, well, I figured. Maybe it just takes another 10 to read.
Clarissa just smiles, coming to the counter to collect her flowers.
It's you, isn't it?
What is?
In the novel. Isn't it meant to be you?
Oh, I see. Yeah.
Clarissa shrugs, half pleased, half embarrassed.
I mean, in a way. Sort of. Richard's a writer. That's what he is. He uses things which actually happen.
Yes.
And years ago, he and I were students. It's true, but then he changes things.
Sure.
I don't mean in a bad way.
Barbara looks at her a moment. Clarissa frowns.
More like he makes them his own.
Interior Hogarth House, study day. Virginia Woolf sits in her study, pen poised. She speaks to herself.
A woman's whole life.
Exterior Spring Street day. Clarissa comes out of the flower shop, carrying a bunch of flowers, and sets off down the street. Virginia continues speaking underneath.
In a single day.
Interior Brown's house, kitchen day, 1951. Laura sits thinking at the kitchen table, turning the pages of a cookery book.
Just one day. And in that day, her whole life.
Richie has run across the kitchen and now climbs his mother's lap. Exterior Triangle Building Day, 2001. Now Clarissa is walking through the meat market, carrying her distinctive bunch of flowers. She crosses the road amongst the meat trucks, and then she approaches the huge, red-painted, triangular building, which looms up at her from the crossroads. Interior Richard's apartment day. An upstairs window. A man in a dressing gown parts his curtain to look down at Clarissa approaching. Interior Exterior Triangle Building day. Clarissa, confident, cheerful, approaches a doorway crammed between the metal crisscrossings of fire escapes. She opens the door with a key and goes into a tiny, squalid, airless lobby. A fluorescent panel sputters on the ceiling. Clarissa heads for the cheerless, graffiti-strewn freight elevator, closes the gate, and rides upwards. Interior, Richard's apartment and corridor, day. Clarissa rings the bell of Richard's apartment, then presses her face close to the door to listen.
Mrs. Dalloway, it's you.
Yes, it's me.
Come in.
Clarissa turns the lock with her own key and goes into a desolate loft space. The first space is in near darkness, a gloomy kitchen bathroom area. Clarissa picks her way carefully through to the second larger space, the living area, where the man at the window is sitting, pale, stick-limbed, in a rotting armchair, which is covered in towels. Richard is in his late 40s, gaunt from AIDS, a noble skull merely, his boxer's nose and high forehead, lit by a streak of light from between the blinds. He is wearing a blue robe with childlike drawings of rockets and astronauts on it. The whole place is bleached, chaotic, more or less bare of ornament. This is a man who has pared his life down to very little. Clarissa puts down the flowers and goes to the blinds.
Richard, it's a beautiful morning. How about I let in a little light?
Is it still morning?
It is.
Clarissa raises one of the shades. Richard barely moves to greet the light.
Have I died? Am I alive?
Clarissa bends over and kisses his forehead.
Good morning.
Good morning, my dear.
Any visitors?
Yes.
Are they still here?
No, they've gone.
How did they look?
Today? Sort of like black fire. I mean, sort of light and dark at the same time. There was one a bit like an electrified jellyfish.
Clarissa looks at him a moment and picks up the flowers.
They were singing. It may have been Greek.
You don't sleep at all, do you?
Oh, sleep.
Clarissa has gone into the kitchen and calls back through to him.
I saw 3 bluebirds on the way over. Do you think it's a good omen?
Do you believe in omens? Omens would mean someone was looking after us, someone was watching. Do you believe anyone's watching? Do they send signs?
Richard makes a sort of grin, amused at the idea.
I mean, I love to believe it.
The ceremony's at 5, do you remember?
Do I? Do I remember?
Then the party's after.
Clarissa has arranged the flowers, and now she reappears in the doorway of Richard's room. Clarissa looks at him tolerantly, the long-suffering look of nurse to patient. His complex cocktail of pills is laid out neatly on a table nearby.
Did they bring you breakfast? They did bring you breakfast, didn't they?
What a question, of course.
You did eat it, Richard.
Well, can you see it? Is there any breakfast lying around?
I can't see it.
Well, then I must have eaten it, mustn't I?
I suppose.
Does it matter?
Of course it matters. You know what the doctors say. Have you been skipping pills?
Clarissa is frowning mistrustfully at the way the cocktail is laid out on the table, but Richard is suddenly impatient, ignoring the question.
Clarissa, I can't take this.
Take what?
Having to be proud and brave in front of everyone.
Honey, it's not a performance.
Of course it is. I got the prize for my performance.
Well, that is nonsense.
I got the prize for having AIDS and going nuts and being brave about it. I actually got the prize for having come through.
It's not true.
For surviving. That's what I got the prize for. You'd think they'd give it to me if I were healthy?
Well, yes, as a matter of fact, I do.
Richard looks at her with an ironic gleam of doubt.
Is it here somewhere?
What?
The prize. I'd like to look at it.
You haven't gotten it yet. It's tonight.
Are you sure? I remember the ceremony perfectly. I seem to have fallen out of time.
Clarissa waits a moment, trying to be patient.
Richard, it's a party. It's only a party, populated entirely by people who respect and admire you.
Small party, is it? Select party, is it?
Your friends.
I thought I lost all my friends. I drove my friends crazy.
Richard reaches out and touches the flowers.
Oh, Mrs. Dalloway, always giving parties to cover the silence.
Clarissa is stunned by a moment of his unkindness, and then rallies, keeping her anger at bay.
Richard, you won't need to do anything. All you have to do is appear, sit on the sofa, and I will be there. This is a group of people who want to tell you your work is going to live.
Is it? Is my work going to live?
Richard looks at her without pity.
I can't go through with it, Clarissa.
Why do you say that?
I can't.
Why?
Because I wanted to be a writer. That's all.
So?
Richard gets up, heaving himself across the room on a crutch.
I wanted to write about it all. Everything that's happening in the moment. The way those flowers looked when you carried them in your arms. This towel, how it smells, how it feels, this thread, all our feelings, yours and mine, the history of who we once were, everything that's in the world, everything's mixed up, like it's mixed up now.
Richard's eyes filled with tears.
And I failed. Whatever you start with, whatever it ends, it's so much less. Sheer fucking pride and stupidity.
Richard slumps down again. Clarissa watches, part impatient, part helpless.
We want everything, don't we?
Yes. I suppose we do.
You kissed me on a beach.
Yes.
You remember?
Of course.
How many years ago?
Clarissa shakes her head, too overwhelmed to answer.
What did you want then?
Again, Clarissa says nothing. She is upset as he is.
Come here. Come closer, would you please?
I'm right here.
Take my hand.
Clarissa takes his painfully thin hand, a handful of twigs.
Would you be angry?
Would I be angry if you didn't show up at the party?
No. Would you be angry if I died?
If you died? Would I be angry if you died?
Who's this party for?
What do you mean? Who is it for? What are you asking? What are you trying to say?
I'm not trying to say anything. I'm saying.
Clarissa's panicking now.
I think I'm only staying alive to satisfy you.
Clarissa is looking at him aghast.
So, well, that's what we do. That's what people do. They stay alive for each other. The doctors told you you don't need to die. The doctors told you that you can live like this for years.
Well, exactly.
Richard smiles. Clarissa bitterly shakes her head, firm now.
I don't accept this. I don't accept what you're saying.
Oh, what? And it's you to decide, is it?
No.
How long have you been doing this?
Doing what?
How many years? Coming to the apartment. What about your own life? What about your own Sally? What about just wait till I die? Then you'll have to think of yourself.
Clarissa doesn't answer. Richard smiles, sure of his point.
How are you going to like that?
Clarissa lets go of his hand, disturbed. Richard just looks at her. Clarissa gets up and stands a moment, shaken, then speaks quietly.
Richard, it would be great if you did come. If you felt well enough to come. just to let you know, I'm making the crab thing. Not that I imagine it makes any difference.
Of course, it makes a difference. I love the crab thing.
Clarissa is about to leave, but Richard calls across to her.
Clarissa?
Yes?
Richard raises his head slightly for her to kiss him. Clarissa puts her lips next to his, with great tenderness not to hurt him. Then she squeezes his shoulder.
I'll come back at 3:30 to help you get dressed.
Wonderful.
Clarissa goes out, the sound of the apartment door being reopened and then closed. Richard is alone.
Wonderful.
Interior apartment block elevator day. Clarissa, in her dark glasses, gets back into the freight elevator, distraught from her encounter. She throws her head back in despair at the side of the elevator. Then the elevator goes down. Interior Hogarth House, Virginia's study day, 1923. Virginia Woolf is still at her desk, just as before, but now the first pages of her notebook are filled with handwriting. She speaks again to herself.
It is on this day of all days, her fate becomes clear to her.
At once, there is a loud knock at the door, interrupting Virginia's thoughts. Without waiting for an answer, Nellie Boxall appears. She is large, red-faced, regal, and cook's apron.
Excuse me, Mrs. Wolf. Mr. Wolf said I was to come and speak to you.
I can't imagine why he'd say that.
Nellie, unyielding, ignores Virginia's tone.
I'm nearly finished, Nellie. Please attend me in the kitchen and I'll be down very soon.
Interior Hogarth House, corridor and kitchen day. Virginia is coming downstairs. She stops, standing with her back against the wall in the corridor outside the kitchen, preparing herself for the encounter ahead. From inside, she can hear Nellie chattering freely with Lottie.
What happens is she says that she wants something, and then it turns out that she doesn't.
Well, she never does she? Never wants anything?
Especially when she's asked for it. I mean, that's a sure sign.
I wish I'd been there.
Yeah, I wish you had too.
The two women laugh cheerfully. Virginia summons up courage.
Did you give her that look? That sort of look you do?
I said, Madam.
But before Nellie can finish, Virginia has stepped into the open door and cut her off. Nellie is rolling out pastry and cutting huge chunks of raw lamb. Beside her, Lottie is working. She is in her teens, dressed identically to Nellie and collusive, not missing a trick.
Yes, Nellie, tell me, how can I help?
Virginia moves towards the table, trying to take charge of her formidable servant.
It's about lunch.
Oh, yes,
I just had to go ahead on my own.
I understand.
Virginia recoils slightly at the sight and smell of raw meat.
You chose a pie.
I chose a lamb pie.
Seems suitable.
You being so busy with your writing.
Virginia does not respond. Lottie works on, impassive.
I had no instructions. And I thought some of them yellow pears for pudding, unless you'd like something fancier.
Pears will be fine.
Nellie lifts up pastry and folds it into the pan, a figure of righteous hard work.
Do you remember that my sister is coming at 4 with the family?
Yes, ma'am, I haven't forgotten.
China tea, I think. And ginger.
Nellie hesitates in her actions. Lottie registers the moment also.
Ginger, madam?
I'd like to give the children a treat.
We'd have to go to London for ginger, ma'am. I haven't finished this, and then there's the rest of the lunch to get ready.
Virginia steels herself, not rising to the bait.
12:30 train, Nellie, will get you to London just after 1. If you return on the 2:30, we'll get back to Richmond soon after 3. Do I miscalculate?
No.
Well then.
It's a trial of strength. Nellie doesn't move.
Well then, is something detaining you, Nellie?
Virginia is tense, but she knows she's won. Nellie puts down the rolling pin.
Can't think of anything more exhilarating than a trip to London.
Interior Hogarth House, printing room day. Virginia descends the stairs to the print room. The room is overflowing with manuscripts. In the middle of the untidiness, Leonard sits with a scowl, scrutinizing proofs. Beside him, a handsome young man, Ralph Partridge, is working at the inky hand-operated printing press.
Good morning.
Good morning, Mrs. Wolf.
Ralph looks up, relieved to see her. The atmosphere is extremely tense.
We shall publish no more new authors. I have to tell you, I have discovered 10 errors in the first proof.
Lucky to have found them then, Leonard.
Passchendaele was a charnel house from which no men returned. Do you think it is possible that bad writing actually attracts a higher incidence of error?
Virginia is smiling.
If it's all right, I thought I might take a short walk.
Not far.
No, just for air.
Leonard now gives imperceptible consent, just with his eyes.
So then, if I could walk mid-morning, I'd be a very happy man.
Virginia pauses a moment at the bar, then goes. Ralph watches. Exterior Paradise Road, day. There's a school next to Hogarth House and children in the playground. Virginia comes along the pavement in front of the railings, lost in a world of her own. She walks a little, then stops, without realizing, and talks to herself.
She'll die. She's going to die. That's what's going to happen.
A couple of people pass, noticing that this vague, genteel woman is talking to herself. Now Virginia stares at a couple of little schoolgirls in the playground, one earnestly whispering to the other, both intent.
That's it. She'll kill herself. She'll kill herself over something which doesn't seem to matter.
Interior, Brown's house, kitchen, day, 1951. Laura is still in her dressing gown, but now with an apron tied over it. She is sitting frowning at a recipe book on the surface in front of her. Beside her, she has assembled all the elements of cake making: eggs, tins, sugar, and a series of pale blue bowls. But the endeavor is stalled. Richie is standing beside her, waiting patiently.
Let's think.
You greased the pan, Mommy.
I know you greased the pan, sweet one. Even Mommy knows that.
Decisively, she reaches to assemble the elements. Richie frowns, watching.
Okay, this is what we're going to do. Flour, bowl, sifter.
Can I do it, Mommy?
Can you sift the flour?
Laura smiles at him.
Yes, you can sift the flour, baby, if that's what makes you happy.
I'd like to.
Okay, you do that.
Laura gives Richie a sieve, then pours the raw flour in for him to shake out. Richie concentrates with great seriousness. Flour falls through the sieve in a fine white powder into a blue china bowl.
Isn't it beautiful? Don't you think it looks like snow?
Laura has gone back to looking at the recipe book again.
Next. Now, this is the next thing I'm going to show you. The next thing is we measure out the cups.
Mommy, it isn't that difficult.
I know, sweet pea. I know it isn't difficult. It's just, I want to do this for Daddy.
Because it's his birthday?
That's right. We're baking the cake to show him we love him.
Otherwise, he won't know we love him.
Laura looks at her son a moment.
That's right.
Interior, Clarissa's apartment, day. Clarissa is sitting immobilized in the second bedroom. The room is stacked with spare furniture, which has been cleared away to make room for the party. Clarissa has sat down on a hard chair, still trying to recover from her earlier encounter with Richard. Through the front door, full of cheerfulness, comes Sally, carrying armfuls of dry cleaning and a load of Balducci bags.
I got all the stuff? My God, what a zoo. Why do people have to talk about dry cleaning? I mean, what is there to talk about?
Sally has gone straight through to their own bedroom to put the dry cleaning down on the bed. Now Sally has come out into the corridor and is heading with shopping bags towards the kitchen.
I bought you some flowers.
Sally sees she has been preempted by the abundant flowers Clarissa has already brought home. She throws her own offering down beside them.
Where are you?
In here.
Sally has put the bags down in the kitchen and is beginning to get oranges out of them.
I got somebody to cover for me at work. I'll be with you all night.
Sally opens the fridge door and starts putting oranges inside. She frowns slightly at the silence from Clarissa.
Are you all right?
Sure.
Sally smiles to herself, not worried by Clarissa's slump.
I guess you saw Richard.
That's right.
Well, of course. I bet he said, "Oh, by the way, honey, do you mind if I can skip the party?"
Clarissa nods resignedly at Sally's prescience. In the other room, Sally, still unloading oranges, nods in second response.
Don't worry. Finally, he always shows up.
Oh, sure.
In the end, what? Richard miss an award? A chance to talk about his work? I don't think so. He'll show up.
Sally, in perpetual motion, has now come upon the table. Party plan. A mixture of names and circles, which is laid out on the table.
You did the seating.
I did.
I don't believe it. Lewis Waters? Richard's Lewis? Is he coming?
He is.
You put me next to him. Why do I always get to sit next to the exes? Is this a hint, sweetheart? Anyway, shouldn't the exes have a table of their own where they can all X together in exquisite agony?
Sally has appeared at the jamb of the second bedroom. Clarissa looks up.
I'm off. Try not to pass out from the excitement. Clarissa, it's going to be beautiful.
Thank you.
No problem.
Sally turns and goes out. Clarissa is alone. The apartment is silent.
Why is everything wrong?
Interior, Brown's house, day 1951. Laura is looking at the finished cake. It isn't what she'd hoped. She has tried to pipe out the message, "Happy Birthday, Dan," on top, but the lettering is clumsy, and there are crumbs on the icing. Laura speaks under her breath.
It didn't work. Damn, it didn't work.
At once, there is the sound of the back doorbell. Laura looks, seeing the outline of the woman at the door. She begins to panic, checking in the mirror, alarmed to see herself still in her bathrobe, looking like a distressed person. Richie has come running in, holding a red plastic toy he has been playing with.
Mommy, there's someone at the door.
Interior, exterior, Brown's house, day. Just a few seconds later, Laura swings open the door. Having made a hurried attempt at normality, her hair is tidier, but she's still in the road at the back door. Kitty is standing, a little younger than Laura and more confident, with a voluptuous, good-looking presence. Well made up, well turned out, at ease.
Hi, Kitty.
Hi. Am I interrupting?
Of course not. Come in.
Are you all right?
Kitty comes through the door. It's true. Laura looks a little wide-eyed, desperate.
Why, sure.
Hi, Richie.
Sit down. I've got some coffee on. Would you like some?
Please.
Richie is on the floor, observing from a distance. Kitty sits at the kitchen table and sees the sugary heap.
Oh, look. You made a cake.
I know. It didn't work. I thought it was going to work. I thought it would work better than that.
Honestly, Laura, I don't know why you find it so difficult.
I don't know either.
Anyone can make a cake.
I know.
Everyone can. It's ridiculously easy. Like, I bet you didn't grease the pan.
I greased the pan.
Kitty smiles. Lara is getting cups pouring coffee.
All right, but you have other virtues, and Dan loves you so much, he won't even notice. Whatever you do, he's going to say it's wonderful.
Lara looks at her reproachfully and pushes Kitty's coffee across to her.
Well, it's true.
Does Ray have a birthday?
Sure he does.
When is it?
September. We go to the country club. We always go to the country club. We drink martinis and spend the day with 50 people.
Ray's got a lot of friends.
He does.
You both have a lot of friends. You're good at it.
Lara has said this without envy, and Kitty smiles, accepting the compliment.
How is Ray? I haven't seen him in a while.
Ray's fine.
They both smile.
These guys are something, aren't they?
You can say that again. They came home from the war. They deserved it, didn't they? After what they'd been through?
What did they deserve?
I don't know. Us, I guess. All this.
Lara gestures round the prosperous surroundings. Kitty nods at the copy of Mrs. Dalloway in the kitchen top.
Oh, you're reading a book?
Yeah.
What's this one about?
Oh, it's about this woman who's incredibly, well, she's a hostess and she's incredibly confident. And she's going to give a party. And maybe because she's confident, everyone thinks she's fine. But she isn't.
Kitty has picked up the book and now takes a glance at Lara. The talks run out.
So.
Well.
What is it? Is something wrong, Kitty?
Kitty gathers herself for a moment.
I have to go into the hospital for a couple of days.
Kitty.
I have some sort of growth in my uterus. They're going to go in and take a look.
When?
This afternoon.
Lara just looks at her, not knowing how to respond.
I need you to feed the dog.
Of course.
There's a moment's silence. Kitty puts her front door key on the kitchen table.
Is that what you came here to ask?
Kitty just looks at her, not answering.
What did the doctor say exactly?
It's probably what the trouble's been about getting pregnant.
Kitty looks at Lara a moment, unused to confidences.
The thing is, I mean, you know, I've been really happy with Ray. But, well, now it turns out there was a reason. There was a reason I couldn't conceive. You're lucky, Laura. I don't think you can call yourself a woman until you're a mother.
Lara looks down at her own stomach. Kitty looks away.
The joke is, in all my life, I could do everything. I mean, I can do anything, really. I never had any trouble. Except the one thing I wanted.
Yes.
That's all.
Well, at least now they'll be able to deal with it.
That's right. That's what they're doing.
That's right.
Kitty is rubbing her thumb against her forefinger, as it an imaginary stain.
I'm not worried. What would be the point in worrying?
No, it's not in your hands.
That's it. It's in the hands of some physician I've never met.
Kitty.
Some surgeon who probably drinks even more martinis than Ray, and no doubt always takes a 6-iron to the green, whatever that may mean.
Kitty is losing it now, fighting to control her feelings.
I mean, of course, I'm worried for Ray.
Come here.
But in fact, it is Lara who gets up and goes over to Kitty. She bends down and embraces her. After a moment, Kitty slips her arms around Lara's waist. The two women hold on to each other, Lara almost kneeling to be at Kitty's level. Then, without planning it, Lara kisses Kitty's forehead lingeringly. Kitty lets her.
I'm doing fine, really.
I know you are.
If anything, I'm more worried about Ray. He's not good at this.
Forget about Ray for a minute. Just forget about Ray.
Kitty's face is against Lara's breasts. She seems to relax into her. Lara lifts Kitty's face and puts her lips against hers. They both know what they are doing. They kiss, letting themselves go a moment. Then Lara pulls away.
You're sweet.
There is a brief moment. Then Lara turns and her eye falls on Richie, who is on the floor with his toys. They had both forgotten him. He has watched throughout. Kitty stands up.
You know the routine, right? Half a can in the evening and check the water now and then. Ray will feed him in the morning.
Kitty has got up to go.
Kitty, you didn't mind?
What? I didn't mind what?
Lara stands anxious.
Do you want me to drive you?
I think I'll feel better if I drive myself.
Kitty, it's going to be all right.
Of course it is. Bye.
Kitty goes out. Lara stands in the middle of the kitchen. She looks down at Richie, who is still looking silently up at her.
What? What do you want?
It is said just sharply enough to make Richie turn and go silently into his room. Lara looks at him going, then walks across the kitchen top. Then, needing to do something decisive, Lara picks up the cake, which is on a cooling rack. Lara opens a pedal bin with her foot and slides the cake off the plate cleanly into the bin. It makes a satisfyingly solid noise as it lands. Interior Hogarth House, printing room day 1923. In the printing room, Ralph and Leonard are reading proofs silently. Lottie appears at the door.
Mr. Wolf, Mrs. Bell has arrived.
Mrs. Bell?
Leonard looks up in exasperation, as if this were typical.
Not due till 4.
I can't help that. She's here.
Interior Hogarth House drawing room day. Virginia's sister, Vanessa Bell, is waiting in the drawing room. Although at 44, Vanessa is older than Virginia. She looks younger and more open, more glossy and easygoing. She is just sending her little daughter out to play in the garden as Virginia arrives, followed by Lottie.
Virginia.
They kiss. Virginia laughs conspiratorially.
Leonard thinks it's the end of civilization. People are invited at 4 and arrive at 2:30.
Oh, God.
Barbarians.
We finished lunch earlier than we could have imagined.
I packed Nellie off to London for sugar ginger.
Virginia is heading cheerfully out toward the garden, but Vanessa comments well within Lottie's hearing.
Oh, Virginia, don't tell me you're still frightened of the servants.
Lottie is left smiling as the two women head into the garden. Exterior Hogarth House garden day. Virginia and Vanessa are sitting in the garden at Hogarth House, watching the children playing.
And how are you, sister?
Frantic. It's been ridiculous in London.
Ridiculous how?
Busy.
Why is busy ridiculous?
I would have invited you to our party, but I knew you wouldn't come.
Did you?
Virginia looks genuinely surprised.
How did you know that?
I thought you never came to town.
You no longer ask me.
Aren't you forbidden to come? Do the doctors not forbid it?
Doctors.
Do you not pay heed to your doctors?
You're a bunch of contemptible Victorians.
Vanessa looks sideways at Virginia, surprised by her forthrightness.
So, what are you saying? Are you feeling better? Has this fastness made you stronger?
I'm saying, Vanessa, that even crazy people like to be asked.
Virginia moves on. Virginia stops a second, briefly shocked. They are heading toward Vanessa's 3 children, who are gathered in a group near the bushes around something not yet seen. Julian Bell is 15, sturdy and muscular. Quentin Bell is 13, looking like a young soldier. And Angelica Garnett is an exceptionally beautiful little girl of 5.
Hello, changelings. What have you got? What have you found?
We found a bird.
Did you? Where did you find that?
I think it must have fallen from the tree.
Quentin holds a dying thrush out in his hands, a bundle of gray feathers.
Goodness, just look at him.
He's alive. I think we might be able to save him.
Save him.
Vanessa frowns.
I think you have to be careful, Quentin. There's a time to die. It may be the bird's time.
Fearing such talk may upset her, Vanessa instinctively squeezes Virginia's hand.
Come on. Let's pick up some grass. Let's pick up some grass to make it a grave.
Vanessa is about to protest, but Julian interrupts.
I'm just saying. Then at least there will be a bed for him to die on. Come on, Nessa. Let's make a grave.
Oh God, oh, very well. I'm coming. Wait for me then. Angelica, you'll be all right?
Vanessa runs off with the boys. Exterior Hogarth House, garden day. Angelica is making the little bed of twigs. The others have gone off to pick grass. Virginia appears above Angelica with some yellow roses.
Do you think she'd like roses?
Yes.
Let's put roses around the grass.
Virginia kneels down next to Angelica and helps her arrange the little bed. The bird is lying to one side. In the distance, the boys are calling.
Mother, there's some good stuff over here. Mother, mother.
Is it a she?
Yes. The females are larger and less colorful.
The sticks, grass, and leaves are now laid out in a rough circle. Angelica's hands have the dead bird protected inside them as she lays down the thrush, arranging her feet under her. Angelica and Virginia decorate the circle of leaves with roses.
What happens when we die?
What happens? We return to the place we came from.
I don't remember where I came from.
Nor do I.
Angelica frowns, trying to understand.
She looks very small.
Yes, that's one of the things that happens. We look smaller.
But very peaceful.
Virginia smiles at Angelica. Suddenly, Vanessa arrives with the boys, her energy breaking up the moment of quiet.
Is it done? Have we finished? Is the bird funeral complete? The bird's obsequies been done?
They have.
Good. Very well then. Are we to be denied tea altogether for coming so early?
Of course not.
Well then, come on, boys.
Vanessa walks off, up the lawn with Julian and Quentin. They are all chattering as they go.
Where's Nellie gone?
She had to go to London to get ginger.
Did that make her mad?
Virginia says very.
I like it when Nellie gets angry. It's funny.
Then it's silent. Virginia is left alone. She is not moved. She is still looking at the bird's grave. The bird is perfectly at peace and surrounded with petals. Virginia looks slowly. Virginia closes her eyes. Her face becomes a death mask. Interior Brown's house, bedroom day 1951. Laura is laying out on the bed, an identical look on her face to Virginia's. Then, impulsively, she gets up from the bed. Interior, Brown's house, living room, day. Richie is sitting by himself playing on the carpet with his toys. He looks up, missing nothing, as Laura comes out of the bedroom. She smiles absently at him and walks across the living room to pick up the tapestry bag, which is lying on a chair. She takes it with her and goes into the bathroom. Interior, Brown's house, bathroom, day. Laura opens up the mirrored cupboard above the sink. In it, there are a few odd bottles of aspirin, etc. She reaches for some bottles of prescribed sleeping pills. She opens the tapestry bag, puts the bottles inside, and goes out. Interior, Brown's house, living room, day. Laura comes out of the bedroom with a tapestry bag. Richie looks up again, trying to puzzle out where she has been. Laura heads straight for the kitchen, where she puts the bag on a high surface, out of the child's reach. Laura reaches once more for the flour and eggs.
Hey, Bug. I've got this idea. We're gonna make another cake. We're going to make a better one.
What happened to the first one?
Laura smiles at him, as if everything were completely normal.
Then, after that, I think we should go out.
Exterior, Clarissa's apartment, day, 2001. At once a man's finger pressing the intercom, Lewis Waters is leonine, silvery, handsome, in his late 40s, casually but perfectly dressed. A once startlingly good-looking man, now a little faded. He is nervous. It's taking him an effort to ring the bell. After a moment, he hears Clarissa's voice.
Thank you, everyone. We will stop here for the intermission. Amazing job, actors. You guys are also talented. And what a perfect script to show the importance of mental health and how, you know, depression and suicidal thoughts can show up in different types of people. The story is incredible because it follows 3 women from different generations, all still struggling with mental health issues. So now that we are in the intermission, we are going to have a 15-minute intermission. And I encourage everyone who's watching, I looked on our Facebook Live comments page, so it looks like a lot of us are watching. So I encourage you to comment your name or the organization that you support or anything. And you guys can, you know, you can ask us any questions you'd like in the comment thread. Also, we encourage you all to comment what script you would like us to read next and what nonprofit organizations you're interested in and why. Remember, we are going to be giving away 10 free audiobooks of The Daydreamers, written by Morgan Toll, which is an amazing story about a boy who needs to believe in himself. So it's a positive story that I think we can all relate to. So now I am going to hand it over to Morgan. We have our special guest, Olivia Holt, who is an actress and singer, and she is going to tell us what mental health means to her. So I encourage you all to watch and comment on our Facebook Live page. Go to our website and look at all the amazing resources and organizations we have to support mental health. And please donate. Anything helps. People need these organizations now more than ever. So thank you. And Morgan, I will hand it over to you.
Thank you so much, Vanessa. I will go ahead and play this special video from Olivia.
Hello, you guys. It's Olivia Holt here. I am
I think something happened with the audio, Morgan. We can't hear Olivia. Do you want to play it again?
So sorry.
Oh, it's okay. And just so our audience knows, Olivia's actually filming right now. She's on set. So she actually recorded this video and sent it to us from set. So we really appreciate that. So let's hear her amazing message about what mental health means to her.
Hello, you guys. It's Olivia Holt here. I am so incredibly grateful to be here today. And thank you, everyone, for tuning in and watching. And thank you to everyone who's participating in the reading of the hours. This is so cool, so incredible. I'm so happy that we're doing this and bringing a community of people together to talk about and support mental health, which is something that's not talked about in our daily conversations as much as physical health is. And so I'm very grateful to be a part of this and to just remind everybody how important this is and how important talking about mental health is and checking in on your people, checking in on your friends, your family, and making sure that they're okay. And if they're not, reminding them that they're not alone. And so many people go through lots of different things. And I'm just here to remind everybody that as someone who struggles with mental illnesses myself, I am here for you and I am with you. And there is a community of people out here ready to embrace and encourage you to make this a priority in your life, to remind yourself that you're good enough and you deserve to make this a priority and to feel loved and not alone. And I am sending so much love to everybody. And this is so cool again that we're doing this and sending virtual hugs and lots of love. Bye, everybody.
All right, well, that was a video from Olivia. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Everybody that's stuck around and watched, we really, truly appreciate it. Mental health is so important, especially right now, living in a social media generation where we see a lot of smiling faces and glamorous lifestyles in the media. And we forget sometimes that all of us have struggles, each and every one of us. And it's so important to speak up and talk about the things you're going through, because the minute that you say that you're going through something, you're letting the other person know that they are not alone. At the end of our reading, we are going to mention a couple of charities that are also important to each of our actors. I'm going to go ahead and start that off. And then at the very end, the actors will get together and talk about their personal charities. So I chose for my personal charity, the RRP Foundation, which is the main research fund for recurrent respiratory papillomas, an illness in both children and adults that causes tumors to form and spread in the respiratory area, both preventing breathing, causing voice struggles and loss. I, among many others, have had hundreds upon hundreds of surgeries, have struggled to breathe, lost my voice, and have been hospitalized too many times. With no cure and very little information about this disease, the RRP Foundation is focused and determined on getting the data and tools to not only find that cure, but to make resources available to those who are struggling. I ask those that are watching to help give a voice to the RRP Foundation by supporting in any way you can. I also encourage all of you who are watching today to speak up about anything that you might be going through, and also let us know what charities that you're passionate about. What is something that means something to you? This is just the first of many readings that we're going to be doing for our Act for One Life. And we want to ask you, what do you think is important? What should we be talking about? What should we be sponsoring? So that we can give the voice to those organizations and to those charities and those people in need. So I'm going to turn this off for just a little bit. Go get a snack, go to the bathroom, do what you need to do. Please keep commenting, staying as engaged as possible. We want to hear from you, and know that you have a voice and that you matter, and we love you. And thank you so much for joining us. We'll pick back up in about 7 minutes. Thank you. It's on mute. Hi, guys. Welcome back. We are now going to continue our reading of the hours. Thank you so much to everybody who is sticking around. We really, truly appreciate you being a part of this super special event. So I'll let you guys continue.
Exterior, Clarissa's apartment, day 2001. At once, a man's finger pressing the intercom. Lewis Waters is leonine, silvery, handsome, in his late 40s, casually but perfectly dressed. A once startlingly good-looking man, now a little faded. He is nervous. It's taken him an effort to ring the bell. After a moment, he hears Clarissa's voice.
Yes?
Clarissa, it's Lewis. Lewis Waters.
Lewis! My God, you're early.
Do you mind? Is it all right?
Interior, Clarissa's apartment, vestibule, day. Clarissa has pressed the buzzer and Lewis is coming into the vestibule of the building. As he does, Clarissa swings open the door of the apartment to greet him. She has an apron around her waist and green plastic gloves on. Her hair is a mess, and Lewis has plainly interrupted her in mid-work. She is listening to a CD, which is booming out behind her.
Why should I mind? I'm delighted.
Well, now.
They fall into each other's arms, embracing. They hold each other for some time with real need. Then Clarissa lets go and sees that Lewis's eyes are moist.
I feel I'm interrupting.
Why? No.
I know the ceremony's not till 5, but I flew in this morning.
Clarissa stands a moment, shaking her head.
Richard's going to be thrilled. He'll be thrilled to see you.
You think so?
Of course. Of course he will.
There's just a moment's hesitation.
What are we doing? We should go in.
Interior, apartment, day. Clarissa leads Lewis into the apartment, taking off her apron. Lewis follows her, hesitant, wondering what is wrong beyond her astonishment at seeing him again.
Are you all right?
Oh, sure. It's nothing. It's just the party.
Oh, great.
Lewis looks around the room. Everything is now cleared to the sides. There are a bunch of flowers everywhere. Yellow roses abound. Clarissa turns off the CD of Jesse Norman singing one of Strauss's last songs.
Wow. It's looking beautiful. Are you still with?
Yes, I'm still with her. 10 years. It's crazy.
Why is it crazy?
Clarissa shakes her head, embarrassed.
No reason. Would you like a drink?
Some water.
Okay.
Interior, apartment, kitchen, day. Clarissa lifts the lid on the big pot of shellfish, which is now bubbling on the stove. Around the kitchen, the ingredients to make crab souffle roll are laid out. Clarissa takes a look and takes off her plastic gloves, fills glasses with ice and carbonated water. She looks through the kitchen to where Lewis is standing alone, still admiring the apartment.
And you're still an editor?
Oh, sure.
Still the same publisher?
Clarissa nods.
How's San Francisco?
Oh, it's one of the cities people tell you to like.
Lewis stops a moment, looking at a framed photograph of the young Richard, looking handsome, healthy, and young.
Richard said he thought you were happy out there.
Oh, great. So now the illness makes him psychic.
Clarissa hands him his water.
Lewis, you have to prepare yourself. He's very changed.
Lewis has picked out a copy of Richard's book from Clarissa's shelves. Clarissa goes back to her cooking.
I read the book.
Oh, God.
Exactly. I thought you were meant to do more than just change people's names.
Well,
isn't it meant to be fiction? He even had you living on 10th Street.
Clarissa frowns, not liking the way the conversation is going.
It isn't me.
Isn't it?
You know how Richard is. It's a fantasy.
A whole chapter about should she buy some nail polish? And then guess what? After 50 pages, she doesn't.
Clarissa smiles, but Lewis isn't amused.
The whole thing seems to go on for eternity. Nothing happens, then wham, for no reason, she kills herself.
His mother kills herself.
Yeah, sure, his mother, but still for no reason.
Well,
out of the blue.
Louis seems annoyed, but Clarissa speaks quietly, trying to reach him now.
I know the book is tough, but I liked it. I know. Only one thing upset me.
Oh yeah? What was that? What upset you?
Louis is looking at her warily now, as if he fears being hurt.
Well, that there wasn't more about you.
That's kind.
Louis looks up, caught off balance. Now he is moved and risks a confidence.
I went back to Wellfleet.
Did you?
One day. I didn't tell you?
No, but then I never see you.
You remember the house? It's still there.
Louis stops thinking.
I think you're courageous.
Courageous? Why?
To dare to go visit.
Louis frowns.
What I mean is to face the fact you've lost those feelings forever.
Clarissa's eyes are full of tears, and she seems to have forgotten Louis is there.
Clarissa?
I don't know what's happening. I'm sorry. I seem to be in some strange sort of a mood. I seem to be unraveling.
Clarissa, I shouldn't have come.
Clarissa holds out a hand to stop him coming over to comfort her.
No, it's not you. It's more, it's like having a presentiment. You know what I'm saying?
Clarissa wipes her eyes, tries to make light of it.
Oh, God, it's probably just nerves about the party. Bad hostess.
Suddenly, Clarissa sinks to the floor, not able to control herself anymore.
Clarissa, what's happening?
Jesus.
What is it?
Clarissa has gone away to the wall, like a child now, with her hand raised to hide her face.
Oh, God.
You want me to go?
Clarissa tries desperately to turn her grief to anger.
No. Don't go. Explain to me, why is this happening?
Louis moves toward her to try and reassure her by taking her in his arms.
No, don't touch me. It's better you don't.
Louis stands useless. Clarissa looks at him a moment through her tears. Then she tries desperately.
Too much. It's just too much. You fly in from San Francisco. I've been nursing Richard for years.
I know.
And all that time, I've held myself together. No problem.
There's a silence. Neither of them can say anything. Clarissa just looks pleadingly at him from the floor.
Yes.
Neither speaks. Clarissa wipes her tears with her sleeve. She's quiet when she talks.
One morning in Wellfleet, you were there. We were all there. I'd been sleeping with him, and I was on the back porch. He came out. He put his hand on my shoulder. Good morning, Mrs. Dalloway.
Clarissa has lost a moment of the memory.
And ever since then, I've been stuck.
Stuck?
I mean, with the name.
There's a silence. Then Clarissa gestures towards Louis to divert.
And now you walk in, and to see you walk in, because I never see you. Look at you.
Louis looks at her, wanting to help.
Anyway, it doesn't matter. It was you he stayed with. It was you he lived with. I had one summer. You'll see when he comes. He's still Richard. His mind wanders and he's in a lot of pain, but there's some constant quality. There's his Richardness.
Louis moves toward her, careful about what he wants to spell out.
The day I left him, I got on a train and made my way across Europe. I felt free for the first time in years.
There is a silence. Clarissa stares, taking in what Lewis has just said. Then she gets up, trying to get back to normal.
So, you must tell me about San Francisco.
What's to tell? I still teach drama to idiots, mostly.
They can't all be idiots.
No,
Lewis has put his glass down.
no. In fact, I shouldn't tell you this. I've fallen in love.
Really?
Yes. With this student.
A student?
Exactly.
Lewis acknowledges the absurdity of it.
I know you think, am I still up for this? All this intensity, all those arguments, doors being slammed. Well, you know what it's like.
Clarissa says nothing.
Are you feeling better?
A little, thank you.
Clarissa goes to the sink. Lewis is suddenly embarrassed.
Do you think I'm ridiculous?
Ridiculous. Fortunate, too.
Interior, Brown's house, day 1951. Laura takes a second cake out of the oven and sets it down on a cake rack. She looks at it a moment. It is much better than the first. It reads Happy Birthday, Dan, and is fringed with yellow roses. Laura takes off her oven gloves and reaches for the tapestry bag. She goes out. Interior, car, day. The tapestry bag lands with a wham on the back seat of the car. Laura then bundles a rather surprised-looking Richie into the passenger seat. Then Laura goes around and gets on the driver's side.
Sorry, we're having technical difficulties. I'll go ahead and read for Laura until she gets back. I'm going to leave you at Mrs. Latch. I have to do something.
Laura is dressed and made up, armored to go out into the world. Richie is looking at her as she starts the car.
Mommy, I don't want to go.
You have to. I'm sorry. I have to do something before Daddy comes home.
They drive off down the suburban street, fringed with palm trees. Exterior, Mrs. Latch's house, day. A cute suburban house with plaster squirrels on the gable over the garage. Mrs. Latch, a big florid woman in Bermuda shorts, opens the door. Richie is holding Laura's hand and looking very reluctant to go into the house.
Hello.
Hi, Mrs. Latch. My boy's not very happy.
Mommy, I don't want to do this.
I have to go, honey.
Laura stoops down to his level and kisses him.
Your mommy has things that she must do. If you come in, I've got cookies.
Laura takes him so that she can look him directly in the eye.
Baby, you have to be brave now.
Don't you worry, he's going to be fine.
Mrs. Latch reaches out and takes Richie's hand. Turned away from her son, Laura walks across the lawn back to the car. Without warning, her face crumples in tears, but as she reaches the car, she wipes her eyes with her hand to hide her distress. Then she turns back to wave.
Honey.
Richie waves back from the step. Laura quickly gets into the car, grinning at him. She can barely get the key on the starter, but when she does, She turns and drives away. Interior, exterior, Laura's car, Los Angeles day. Laura is beginning to drive away down the road. She looks nervously in the rear view mirror. She sees Richie run out of Mrs. Latch's arms and into the road screaming desperately.
Mommy, mommy, no.
Laura swings the wheel decisively to the left and with a little squeal of rubber, accelerates away. Richie stands alone in the middle of the street. Interior, exterior, Laura's car, day. Now Laura is cruising on a Los Angeles freeway. For a moment, her higher speed and the freedom of the road gives the feeling that she has successfully escaped. Interior, Mrs. Latch's house, day. Back in the living room of Mrs. Latch's house, Richie moodily gets out a building set and begins building a small house. Mrs. Latch watches from the doorway. Interior, Laura's car, day. Laura drives intently. She is aimless, distressed. But then she looks to the side of the freeway where there is a sign for the Normandy Hotel. Impulsively, with no pre-planning, Laura swings the car dangerously across lanes and takes it along the shipway towards the hotel. Interior, Mrs. Latch's house, day. Richie has finished the little house. He now picks up the complete building and tumbles it bad-temperedly back into the box. Exterior, Normandy Hotel, Los Angeles, day. Laura walks towards a huge wedding cake hotel, a pseudo-Spanish 50s palace. She carries no luggage except her tapestry bag. Interior, Normandy Hotel, room, day. Laura has checked into the hotel and is now standing in the room she has reserved. It is featureless, anonymous, green spreads and candy wallpaper. Laura is dropping 50 cents into a hotel clerk's outstretched hand.
Breakfast is served between 7 and 11 in the Regency room. There's a swimming pool at the back, and the hotel is open for 24 hours.
He pockets the tip.
Thank you, ma'am. Is there anything else you need?
Laura hesitates a moment.
Yes. No. Not to be disturbed.
He goes out. Laura is left alone. She looks around the room. There is a moment of silence, of relief. Laura looks around, not quite knowing what to do next. Laura sits on the edge of the bed and opens her bag. She takes out the pale green toilet bag and unzips it. She takes the little rack of pills out and sets them on the bed cover. As she does, she sees her copy of Mrs. Dalloway at the bottom of the tapestry bag. Interior, Normandy Hotel, day, a few minutes later. Now Laura is stretched out reading on the bed, a pillow against her back. As Laura reads her book, the text is heard in Virginia's voice.
Did it matter then, she asked herself, walking towards Bond Street? Did it matter that she must inevitably cease completely?
Laura pulls her blouse out from her skirt to loosen it and puts her hand on her pregnant stomach.
All this must go on without her. Did she resent it? Or did it not become consoling to believe that death ended absolutely?
Laura rubs her naked stomach slightly, feeling the child within.
It is possible to die.
Suddenly, brackish water floods from underneath, washing up over the sides of the bed. Laura, in her imagination, sinks under the water, strewn with weeds, and then drowns. Interior, Hogarth House, drawing room, day, 1923. Virginia is sitting with Vanessa having tea. Julian and Quentin are at the other end of the room. Virginia is completely lost in her own thoughts.
It is possible to die.
Virginia turns her head and becomes aware that Vanessa has been speaking. She only hears the end of what has obviously been a long discourse.
There was a lovely coat for Angelica at Harrods, but then nothing for the boys, and it seemed so unfair. Why should Angelica be favored?
Virginia does not reply.
Virginia? Virginia? What are you thinking about?
Virginia is still looking at her a little blankly. Julian and Quentin are nudging each other, laughing at how odd Virginia is.
Are you still with us?
Angelica runs across to Virginia, who scoops her up and puts her on her knee.
Your aunt's a very lucky woman, Angelica, because she has 2 lives. Most of us have only one. She's the life she leads, and she also has the book she's writing. This makes her very fortunate indeed.
Virginia smiles at Angelica on her knee.
What were you thinking about?
Oh, I was going to kill my heroine, but I've changed my mind.
Interior, Normandy Hotel, room, day, 1951. Back in the dry bedroom, Laura is lying on the bed, the pills still visible on the table beside her. She still has the book in front of her, but she is not reading it. She puts it on one side, then she rubs her naked stomach again, her eyes full with tears.
I can't.
Interior, Hogarth House, drawing room, day, 1923. Virginia is just as before.
I fear I may have to kill someone else instead.
Interior, Hogarth House, all day. Everyone is now gathered in the hall, saying goodbye. There is a car waiting outside which is being loaded. Quentin, Julian, and Angelica are all in front as Vanessa and Virginia make their way to the door.
It was a fascinating visit. They enjoyed it thoroughly.
You have to go already. I do wish you wouldn't go.
Why, Virginia, the last thing you need is our noisiness. My hopeless, clumsy boys.
Vanessa smiles at the lads.
Say goodbye, boys.
Goodbye, children.
The boys say goodbye and goodbye, Aunt, and shake Virginia's hand. They go out the front door towards a waiting taxi. Virginia turns to her sister.
And you'll return to what? To concerts, to parties?
Tonight, an insufferable dinner, which not even you could enjoy, Virginia.
But I do.
Suddenly, she looks Vanessa in the eye.
Kiss me.
It starts as a formal kiss, but then Virginia, shockingly direct, pushes her lips against Vanessa. Virginia holds her mouth a moment. When they part, Vanessa is overwhelmed, blushing at the power of Virginia's need.
Did you think I was better? Say something, Nessa. Didn't you think I seemed better?
Yes, Virginia, you seem better.
Virginia continues to look at her sister pleadingly.
You think I may one day escape?
There is a silence, the 2 women still eye to eye.
One day. One.
Nessa.
There's a short silence, broken by the sound of a car horn outside.
Come, Angelica. We must go.
Vanessa and Angelica go out of the door. Angelica turns back and waves.
Goodbye.
Bye, little girl.
Nellie, returning from outside, closes the door and gives Virginia a look as she returns to the kitchen. Virginia stands alone in the hall. Leonard is standing at the end of the corridor, watching. Exterior, Hogarth House, day. The boys are already in the taxi. Vanessa, obviously upset, wordlessly ushers Angelica to get in, and she gets in herself and draws Angelica to her.
Here, on my knee. Stay
Virginia.
close.
Virginia signals to the driver.
Driver.
Exterior, Clarissa's apartment, day 2001. Lewis lets the outside door of Clarissa's apartment building close behind him. He stands a moment at the top of the steps, full of relief to have left. Then, gratefully, he goes on his way. Interior, Clarissa's apartment, day. Clarissa closes the door of the apartment and goes back into her living room, intending to resume her preparations for the party. But instead, she stands in the middle of the room, now bereft. She does not move. Interior, Hogarth House, day 1923. Virginia walks up alone the staircase. At the halfway landing, there is a large window. Virginia stops. Outside, she can see a happy family departing, the 3 children chattering excitedly to Vanessa. The car disappears. Virginia watches. Exterior 10th Street, day 2001. A handsome 19-year-old girl, lush and strong in combat trousers and sweater, comes along 10th Street. She crackles with health like an Irish farm girl. She bounds up the steps of Clarissa's apartment block and lets herself in with her key. Interior Clarissa's apartment day. The girl is Clarissa's daughter, Julia, and now she is letting herself into the apartment.
I'm sorry. I know. I tried to get here earlier. I tried. Okay. Don't start. I know. It's just incredibly important because it's your party.
Clarissa turns from where she is standing.
Julia, how have you been?
I'm fine.
Clarissa has gone over to embrace her.
Come here. What have you been doing?
Well, studying, Mom.
Julia eases out of her mother's needy embrace, blithely, to take off her backpack.
What should I do? Chairs?
Oh, can you clear my desk?
Clarissa's desk is covered in books, which Julia now clears by carrying them to the bedroom. She calls back to her mother.
I bumped into Lewis Waters.
You did? Where?
In the street. They're all here, aren't they? The ghosts. The ghosts are assembling for the party. He's weird.
Julia, on her way through, sees her mother's face.
You mean you can't see that? You can't see Lewis Waters is weird?
I can see that he's sad.
All your friends are sad.
Julia expects Clarissa to laugh, but then stops, books in hand, seeing how preoccupied her mother is.
You've been crying. What's happening?
All it is. I look around this room. I thought, I'm giving a party. All I want to do is just give a party.
And?
Clarissa shakes her.
I know why he does it. He does it deliberately.
Who? Is this Richard?
Of course.
Julia smiles to herself as if she's used to it.
He looks at me. He did it this morning. He gave me that look.
What look?
Oh, to say, you're trivial. Your life is so trivial. Daily stuff, schedules, parties, details.
Clarissa turns, suddenly protesting.
That's what he means by it. That's what he's saying.
Mom, it only matters if you think it's true.
Clarissa looks at her, taken aback by what Julia has said. They both become quiet now.
Well, do you? Tell me.
There's silence.
When I'm with him, then yes, I'm living. That's what I feel. And when I'm not, yes, things seem kind of silly.
Julia walks away to the bedroom, struck by her mother's tactlessness.
I don't mean with you, never with you, but the rest of it.
Sally?
The rest of it, false comfort.
Clarissa has followed Julia into the bedroom, and now they lie down, side by side, on the bed.
If you say to me, when was I the happiest?
Mom.
Tell me the moment you were happiest.
I know. It was years ago.
Yes.
All you're saying is you were once young.
Clarissa smiles at Julia's remark, but Julia knows it is still not resolved.
I remember one morning, getting up at dawn. There was such a sense of possibility. We were going to do everything. Do you know that feeling?
Julia nods, finally allowing what her mother is saying.
I remember thinking, this is the beginning of happiness. That's what I thought. So this is the feeling. This is where it all starts. And of course, there'll always be more. It never occurred to me. It wasn't the beginning. It was happiness. It was the moment, right then.
There is silence. Julia looks thoughtfully at her mother. Then the door buzzer sounds. Clarissa goes to the intercom, and a voice calls through. Caterers. Interior Hogarth House, kitchen, evening. Beef being dumped down into a frying pan filled with onions and being vigorously stirred. A pan of beef bones bubbling next to it. Nellie and Lottie working together in the well-lit kitchen. A whole range of vegetables laid out on the chopping boards for supper. Nellie, who misses nothing, looks up from her cooking at the sound of someone coming downstairs. The kitchen door is open and gives off into the stairway. A figure moves quickly that Nellie sees. Virginia is heading out in a long coat. Lottie has also looked up, the two of them noting Virginia's departure. Exterior Hogarth House, evening. Virginia in her coat hurrying out, trying to make sure she is not noticed. She moves quickly through the garden. In the distance, Leonard is digging at the edge of the garden, but his back is turned and he does not notice her. She hastens towards the gate and goes out into the road outside. Exterior Richmond Station, evening. It is a summer evening, darkening a little as Virginia comes to the Victorian portico of Richmond Station. Two men, returning from London, pass, and she catches a whiff of their conversation.
I told him that's what he had to do, and if he didn't like it, that was his business.
Virginia passes them, trying not to be noticed. Going into the hall, a fine canopied space of glass, arc ironwork. She goes to the ticket booth.
I need a ticket to London, please.
Yes, madam, a single or a return.
Interior Hogarth House, evening. In a presentiment of what will happen again in 18 years' time, Leonard Wolfe comes in from the garden. It's a different house and a different hallway, but the action is the same. Leonard sits to put on his slippers, hearing the sounds of the house. Then, as if noticing something, frowns. Interior Hogarth House, kitchen, evening. Leonard appears at the kitchen door. Nellie is standing behind her stoop.
Nellie, good evening. I was wondering if you'd seen Mrs. Wolfe.
I thought you knew, sir. Mrs. Wolfe has gone out.
Exterior Hogarth House, garden, evening. Leonard Wolfe in a blind panic, fleeing the house, not in a coat. Just out into the garden and away off down the road. Exterior Paradise Road, evening. A middle-aged man, Leonard Wolfe, running in his slippers, vest, and corduroy jacket, charging down the hill towards the town. Exterior Richmond Station, platform, evening. Leonard comes down the steps towards the railway platform. He sees Virginia sitting rather conspicuously by herself on a bench at the end of the platform. The train has just gone, so there is not another traveler in sight. The railway line stretches away to London, empty and quiet. Virginia is trying not to be self-conscious, but she is tense. She turns.
Oh, Mr. Wolfe, what an unexpected pleasure.
And perhaps you could tell me exactly what you think you're doing.
What I was doing? Why?
I went to look for you and you weren't there.
Leonard moves towards her. Virginia stays calm, resisting his panic.
You were working in the garden. I didn't wish to disturb you.
You disturb me when you disappear.
I didn't disappear. I went for a walk.
A walk? Is that all?
Virginia doesn't answer.
Is that all? Just a walk?
Neither of them have moved. Leonard is firm now.
Virginia, Nellie is cooking dinner. She's already had a difficult day. We must go home. We must eat Nellie's dinner. It is one of our obligation to eat Nellie's dinner.
There's no such obligation. No such obligation exists.
Virginia, you have an obligation to your own sanity.
And what is your role, Leonard? My husband or my prison guard?
Leonard is shocked by her fierceness. He tries to soften his tone, but Virginia flares up as soon as he speaks.
Virginia.
I have endured this custody. I have endured this imprisonment. I am intended by doctors everywhere. I am intended by doctors who inform me of my own interests.
They know your interest.
Not know my interest. They do not speak for me. How dare they presume? Let us imagine a life in which women are the doctors and the men sit alone all day in shuttered rooms in the suburbs. Let's imagine that.
Leonard shifts, but is still determined not to back down. Behind him, the odd passenger is beginning to arrive to wait for London train.
Virginia, it is hard. I can see it must be hard for a woman. For a woman of your...
What? A woman of my what, exactly?
A woman of your gifts.
Yes, I see.
Of your talents. And to accept that she is not always the best judge of her own condition.
No? Who is a better judge then? Bring this judge to Platform 1. Let me meet them.
Virginia is looking at him defiantly.
You have a history. You have a history.
Yes.
You came to Richmond with a history of confinement, fits, blackouts, moods, hearing voices. We brought you here to escape the irrevocable damage you intended to yourself. Twice you tried to take your own life by your own hand.
Virginia is watching him closely now, attending every word, still not giving way.
I live daily with that threat.
Virginia looks at him, refusing to answer.
I set up the press. We set up the printing press.
Yes.
Not for itself. Not purely as a thing in itself, but that you might find a ready occupation, a ready source of absorption and of remedy.
Like needlework.
Virginia has suddenly shouted. Leonard, for a moment, loses his temper.
It was done for you. It was done for your betterment. It was done out of love. If I did not know you better, I would call this ingratitude.
I am ungrateful. You call me ungrateful.
Virginia looks at him, accusing, shaking.
My life has been stolen from me. I am living in a town I have no wish to live in. I am living a life that I have no wish to live. And I am asking, how has this occurred?
Virginia nods, sure of her point. There are now several passengers on the long London platform, but Virginia and Leonard ignore them completely.
It's time for us to move back to London. I miss London. I miss London life.
This is not you speaking, Virginia. This is an aspect of your illness.
It is my voice. It is mine and mine alone.
It is not your voice. It is only a voice you hear.
Not, it is mine. I am dying in this town.
Virginia is inflamed, passionate, almost mad. Leonard looks at her, trying to keep calm.
You were clear. If you were thinking clearly, you would remember. It was London which brought you low.
Thinking clearly.
We brought you to Richmond to give you peace.
Virginia takes a moment to summon all her lucidity.
If I were thinking clearly, Leonard, I would tell you that I wrestle alone in the dark. And that only I can know. Only I can understand my own condition. You live with the threat. You tell me. You live with the threat of my extinction.
There is silence. She is trembling, white.
Leonard, I live with it too.
Now, it is Leonard who cannot answer.
This is my right. This is the right of every human being. I choose not the suffocating anesthetic of the suburbs, but the violent jolt of the capital. That is my choice. The meanest patient and the very lowest is allowed some say in the matter of her own condition. Thereby she defines her.
Virginia is calm now, certain.
I wish for your sake, Leonard, that I could be happy in this quietness. But if it is a choice between Richmond and death, I choose death.
There are now tears in Leonard's eyes.
Very well. London, then. We shall go back to London.
Leonard bows his head, overwhelmed by the defeat of his strategy. There is a silence. Virginia watches, full of feeling for him. Then, at the opposite platform, the train from London arrives. From its doors, phalanxes of commuters in dark coats and hats get down onto the platform and head for the exit. Leonard looks up, wiping away his tears.
You must be hungry. I'm a little hungry myself.
Virginia smiles. They look at each other. The issue at last resolved between them.
Come along.
Virginia and Leonard get up and walk together along the deserted platform, both shaken by the encounter. After a moment, Virginia takes his arm. They walk a while, arm in arm, merging into the crowd of commuters. Then, Virginia speaks almost as an afterthought.
You do not find peace by avoiding life, Leonard.
Exterior, interior, Mrs. Latch's house, Los Angeles, evening, 1951. Laura's car draws outside Mrs. Latch's house. Richie has plainly heard her arrive, for when she looks to the window, Richie is already banging his head against it and screaming.
Mommy, mommy.
Laura looks fearful, and she gets out of the car along the neat suburban street. Sprinklers play across lawns, catching the evening like fountains. Richie comes running from the house towards his mother with a triumphant cry of,
It's mommy.
Mrs. Latch follows.
Why, hello, Laura.
Oh, Mrs. Latch, I'm sorry I'm late.
Laura picks up Richie and buries his face in her shoulder.
Oh, now. Hey there, Bug. What's wrong? What's wrong?
Mrs. Latch smiles reassuringly.
He's fine. He's been fine. He's just pleased to see you.
Come on, it wasn't that bad. It wasn't that bad, was it?
Richie has buried himself in Laura. Mrs. Latch nods at Laura's hair.
You got it cut then?
Oh, yes. Yes, no problem.
It looks great.
Thank you. They didn't have to do much.
Laura smiles, embarrassed at the lie.
We had a fine time together.
Thank you. Very much.
Exterior, interior, car, evening. The two of them are driving side by side. Laura has her eyes on the road. Richie is staring straight ahead, not looking at her. The car is moving noiselessly along suburban avenues. There is a long silence. They seem more like two adults rather than mother and child.
So that wasn't too bad, was it? I wasn't gone long.
No, you weren't long.
That's right. At what point? I don't know. There was a moment when I thought I might need longer, but I changed my mind.
Richie says nothing.
Honey, what is it?
Mommy, I love you.
There is a moment's pause.
I love you too, baby.
There is a thoughtful look on Richie's face.
What's wrong?
Richie looks at Laura as if he knows where she has been.
What?
But still, Richie says nothing, just goes on looking.
Don't worry, honey. Everything's fine. We're going to have a wonderful party. We made Daddy such a nice cake.
Richie is still looking at her, watchful.
I love you, sweetheart. You're my guy.
Richie is seen from Lara's point of view. His little face flushed for a moment with pleasure. The sound fades and there is a slow dissolve through to interior, Richard's apartment, evening 2001. Richard's face seen from the exact same point of view. The child has become a man. Richard is sitting in the near dark, a gleam of light catching the sweat on his forehead. He has not moved from his chair, nor has he dressed. He sits thinking back to the scene in the car. Lara's voice is heard in Richard's head.
I love you, sweetheart. You're my guy.
Interior, exterior, triangle building, evening. Clarissa gets out of a hired car in the afternoon light and heads into the doorway of the triangle building. She gets quickly into the elevator. The elevator ascends. Interior, Richard's apartment, evening. Beside Richard, a photograph of his mother, Laura, on her wedding day, eyes down. Richard looks at her, the extreme sweat of illness running down his face. Interior, Richard's apartment, evening. Clarissa, in a repeat of the morning's progress, comes to the door of Richard's apartment and rings the bell to warn him of her presence.
Richard, it's me. I'm early. I know.
She puts her key in the lock and opens the door. The blinds have been pulled up and the curtains parted for the first time. In full light at last, it looks like the apartment of a madman. Piles of boxes, a filthy bathtub, books flung everywhere. Clarissa moves forward in astonishment.
Richard, what the hell is going on?
What are you doing here? You're early.
Richard is pushing furniture to the side. He looks like an exalted scarecrow, his hair plastered to his skull. He's high as a kite and still dressed in his bathrobe and pajamas. Immediately behind him, he has opened the window wide. Clarissa looks in horror.
Richard, what are you doing? What's going on?
Richard looks at her from across the room, his eyes gleaming.
Clarissa, I had this wonderful idea. I needed some light. I needed to let some light in.
Richard moves toward the window.
Richard, what are you doing?
I had this fantastic notion. I took the Xanax and the Ritalin together. It had never occurred to me.
Richard!
Richard screams.
Don't come near me.
Clarissa stops. Richard scrambles painfully to the windowsill and lifts one leg over the sill so that he is perched, bony, weightless, on the other foot still on the apartment door. Clarissa stands, trying to be calm.
Seemed to me I needed to let in some light. What do you think? I cleared away all of the windows.
All right. Do me one favor, Richard. Do me one simple favor.
I don't think I can make it to the party, Clarissa. I'm sorry.
You don't have to go to the party. You don't have to go to the ceremony.
Richard's face darkens. Clarissa shouts in desperation.
You don't have to do anything, Richard. You can do what you like.
But I have to face the hours, don't I? The hours after the party and the hours after that.
You have good days still, Richard. You know you do.
Not really. It's kind of you to say so, but it's not true.
Clarissa is stopped dead, full of fear at her next question.
Are they here, Richard?
Who?
The voices.
Oh, the voices are always here.
But is it the voices you're hearing now?
No, Mrs. Dalloway. It's you.
Clarissa looks at him, terrified now.
I stayed alive for you.
Richard looks at her pleadingly.
Now you have to let me go.
Clarissa looks at him, shocked by what he has said. But again, as she moves toward him, he cuts her off.
Richard.
Tell me a story. All right?
What about?
Tell me about a story from your day.
Clarissa stops, fearing this is their last moment together.
I got up.
Yes.
And I went out to get flowers, just like Mrs. Dalloway in the book. Do you know?
Yes.
It was a beautiful morning.
Was it?
Yes, it was beautiful. It was so fresh.
Clarissa shakes her head.
Fresh, was it?
Yes.
Like a morning on the beach.
Yes.
Like that?
Yes.
Fresh. Like when you and I were young.
There is silence. Clarissa doesn't answer.
Like the morning you walked out of that old house and you were 18. And maybe I was 19.
Yeah.
I was 19 years old and I had never seen anything so beautiful. You coming out of a glass door in the early morning, still sleepy. Isn't it strange?
Yes. Yes, it's strange.
At the most ordinary morning in anyone's life.
Richard shakes his head slightly.
Clarissa, I'm afraid I can't make it to the party.
The party doesn't matter. Just give me your hand.
Clarissa reaches out to him.
You've been so good to me, Mrs. Dalloway.
Richard.
I love you.
Clarissa stops, taken aback as he says it.
I don't think two people could have been happier than we've been.
There is a moment's silence. Then Richard inches forward, slides gently off the sill, and falls. Clarissa screams. Exterior, triangle, building, evening. Silence, no sound, seen from below. Richard's body floating slowly down from the fifth floor in the air. Interior, Richard's apartment, evening. Clarissa looks down at the empty window. Then she takes a step back away from the window, just staring, making no noise. She takes one step back, and then another. Exterior, Hudson Street, evening. Richard's body lands against the concrete, smashing a beer bottle as it does. The corpse bounces and settles face down, his robe up over his face. Silence again. Interior, Brown's house, night, 1951. The cake now bright with lit candles on the dining room table. A great effort has been made for Dan's birthday, and the front of the room is bright with light and decoration. Dan blows out his candles in one long go. Richie and Laura watch from their seats at the table.
Happy birthday.
Birthday! Happy birthday, Dan.
They all laugh.
This is perfect. This is just perfect.
Do you think so? Do you?
Why, sure. You must have been working all day.
Well, we were, weren't we, Bug? That's what we were doing, working all day.
This is just fantastic. It's what I've always wanted.
Laura is doing well as the good wife, sharing her husband's delight in the cake. Richie is watching with a serious expression.
Oh, Dan.
One day I'll tell you, Richie. I'll tell you how it all happened.
Don't.
Laura seems embarrassed. Dan looks up at her, quiet but serious.
I want to. I want to tell him the story.
Laura is silent, giving permission but ill at ease. Dan looks at Richie, full of pleasure at picking his way exactly through his story.
What happened? When I was at war I found myself thinking. And I remembered that there was this girl that I'd seen. I'd never met her at high school. This strange, fragile looking girl called Laura McGrath. Yeah. She was shy. She was interesting. And your mother wouldn't mind me telling you this, Richie. She was the kind of girl you see sitting mostly on her own.
Richie is listening intently. The three of them are intent round the table.
Yes, Richie, I'll tell you. Sometimes when I was in the South Pacific, the fact is, I used to think of this girl.
Dan.
I thought of bringing her to a house, a life, well, pretty like this. And it was the thought of the happiness, the thought of this woman, the thought of this life. That is what kept me going.
There is silence. Dan is looking at Laura.
I had an idea of our happiness.
Richie watches, aware of the awful sadness between them.
Did you make a wish?
Dan has taken one of the yellow roses from the cake and, unaware, has been rolling it between his fingers, back and forth, back and forth. He is alone with his thoughts for a few moments. Then he turns and looks blankly at Laura. Then he nods.
Yes, I did.
Interior morgue, night. Clarissa is seen through the glass panel in a door, waiting at the morgue. She is standing in distress, shaken by the events of the afternoon. Then Sally arrives at the door, led into the morgue by an orderly. She stops a moment to look through the door. Now, full of feeling, she opens the door to join Clarissa. Clarissa looks across. Interior Hogarth House, night. In the drawing room, there are two pools of light from standard lamps. On opposite sides of the room, Leonard and Virginia are sitting, a kind of truce between them after the events of the afternoon. They are both reading. Virginia's book is in her hand. She still has the London rail ticket, which she is using as a bookmark. She fingers the ticket, turning it over. After a few moments, Leonard looks up, as if something has occurred to him from a previous conversation.
Why does someone have to die?
Virginia looks up and frowns.
Leonard.
In your book,
Oh,
you said someone has to die. Why?
Leonard catches just a trace of Virginia's reaction.
Is that a stupid question?
no,
I imagine my question is stupid.
not at all.
Well,
Virginia gives it thought before answering.
Someone has to die in order for the rest of us to value life more.
Leonard looks at her, the two of them serious now.
And it's contrast.
and who will die?
It's a secret.
Tell me.
Virginia pauses, then gives him the gift of an answer.
The poet will die. The visionary.
Interior, Brown's house, Richie's bedroom, night. Richie, the poet, the visionary, lying on the bed in a little room painted with stars. It is decorated with pictures of rockets and imaginary astronauts. His face is alert on the pillow. Exterior, Brown's house, night. The Brown's house is seen from the road. It's dark. Just one pool of light is thrown onto their driveway by a side window. The street is at peace. Interior, Brown's house, Richie's bedroom, night. Richie is lying awake, listening to the sounds of his father in the next room calling to Laura. Interior Brown's house, bathroom, night. Laura is sitting in her head in her hands on the closed toilet seat. She is in pajamas, bent down in an attitude of abject despair, unable to move. After a few moments, Dan calls through from the bedroom.
What are you doing?
Laura looks up. She has taken her makeup off and it is plain she has been crying.
I'm brushing my teeth.
Are you coming to bed?
Yes. In a minute.
Come to bed, Laura Brown.
But Laura doesn't move, just turns away, trapped.
I ran into Ray. He says Kitty's had to go to the hospital.
That's right.
Nothing serious, he said. Just a checkup.
I'm terrified.
Why?
Laura speaks quietly, not loud enough for Dan to hear.
Oh, the idea she could disappear.
Dan has not heard anything.
Perhaps you could go see her in the morning, honey.
I was going to stop by.
There is another short silence. Laura is unable to move.
I've had a wonderful day, and I have you to thank.
Laura looks away in despair now.
Come to bed, honey.
I'm coming.
But still, Laura stands not moving. After a while, Dan speaks again.
So, are you coming?
Yes.
In the distance, you can hear a dog barking. Laura gets up and reaches for the pull light over the mirror. The bathroom goes dark. She takes the steps which bring her to the door, which leads to the door, which leads to the bedroom. Laura stands in the door, the only light falling on her face. Interior Hogarth House, study day 1923. Virginia is now sitting in her favorite chair with a writing board across her lap, notebook in hand. The light pools around her. She is not writing, just thinking. Leonard appears in the doorway opposite. He says nothing.
What? What?
Leonard smiles.
I was hoping you were going to bed.
I am going to bed.
They look at each other, their eyes full of love and humor.
What then?
All else is clear. The outline of the story is planned. Now one thing only.
Virginia shakes her head very slightly, still in the chair.
Mrs. Dalloway's destiny must be resolved.
Interior, Clarissa's apartment, night. Clarissa is in the kitchen with Sally and Julia. Every surface is taken up with food for the party which never happened. Clarissa has the crab dish in her hand and is emptying it sadly into the bin. She is still in the coat she was wearing all afternoon. As she dumps the wasted food, she hears a ring at the door. Clarissa goes to the apartment door and opens it. Laura Brown is standing directly opposite. She is now in her early 80s, slightly stooped with steel gray hair and parchment skin. She is wearing a dark floral dress and coat. Clarissa is taken aback for a moment.
You're Laura Brown.
Yes. I'm Richard's mother.
Of course.
Clarissa reaches out her hand.
I'm Clarissa Vaughn. Come in.
Laura has a small bag, which Clarissa now lifts for her as she leads her into the apartment. At the end of the corridor, Sally is standing with Julia behind her, but Clarissa signals tactfully for them to hold off a moment as she leads Laura into the sitting room. Throughout the apartment, dinner tables have been set with white tablecloths and glasses. Clarissa is alone with Laura in the sitting room.
My friend Sally's in the kitchen, and my daughter.
Laura just looks at her, not answering.
We were having a party. We were going to have a party.
I was lucky. I got the last plane from Toronto.
In the kitchen, unheard, unseen, Julia watches, but speaks quietly to Sally.
So that's the monster.
Laura has approached a table loaded with Richard's books.
I hope I did the right thing. I found your number in his phone book.
Yes, he had it, but we didn't speak often.
Laura is looking at Richard's picture. Clarissa stands a moment, waiting.
It's a terrible thing, Miss Vaughn, to outlive your whole family.
Richard's father died.
Yes, he died of cancer, quite young, and Richard's sister is dead.
Laura looks at her a moment.
Obviously, you feel unworthy. It gives you feelings of unworthiness. You survive, and they don't.
Clarissa waits a second before speaking.
Did you read the poems?
Yes, I read them. I also read the novel. You see, people say the novel is difficult.
I know.
They say that.
I know.
He had me die in the novel. I know why he did that. It hurt, of course. I can't pretend it didn't hurt, but I know why he did it.
You left Richie when he was a child.
I left both my children. I abandoned them. They say it's the worst thing a mother can do.
Neither of them move. The room is silent now.
You have a daughter.
Yes. But I never met Julia's father.
You so wanted a child.
That's right.
You're a very lucky woman.
Clarissa looks down.
There are times when you don't belong and you think you're going to kill yourself. Once I went to a hotel. That night, later that night, I made a plan. Plan was I would leave my family when my second child was born. And that's what I did. Got up one morning, made breakfast, went to the bus stop, got on a bus. I'd left a note.
There's a moment's silence.
I got a job in a library in Canada. It'd be wonderful to say you regretted it. It would be easy. But what does it mean? What does it mean to regret when you have no choice? It's what you can bear. There it is. No one is going to forgive me.
Laura looks at Clarissa, steady, unapologetic.
It was death. I chose life.
Interior, Clarissa's apartment, night. Clarissa comes out of the sitting room down the hall of the apartment and quietly goes into their bedroom, still wearing her dark coat. Sally is in the kitchen with Julia, and now look up at the sight of Clarissa. She gets up and follows Clarissa into the bedroom. Interior, Clarissa's apartment, bedroom, night. Sally comes into the room to find Clarissa sitting on the side of the bed in her coat. The two women look at each other.
You need to take your coat off.
Sally comes round and gestures to Clarissa to stand up. Sally puts her hands on Clarissa's shoulder to help her take off her coat. As she does, Clarissa turns and looks at Sally. The two of them overcome. The two women look warmly at each other, then they kiss. Interior apartment, Julia's bedroom, night. Julia is unpacking her suitcase on the bed in Julia's room. It is only a few things which she has hurriedly put in for the trip. She looks frail and alone. There is a knock on the door, and Julia comes in with a cup and a saucer.
I thought you might like a cup of tea.
That's very kind, dear. I feel like I'm stealing your room.
Julia has put the tea down beside the bed.
We put the food away, so if you're hungry in the night, just help yourself.
Well, I will. You have somewhere?
Yes, the sofa.
I'm sorry.
Instinctively, Julia moves towards her and puts her arms around her. The 18-year-old and the 80-year-old embrace. Lara stands a moment, astonished at her warmth. Then Julia moves away.
Good night, sweetheart.
Good night.
Interior, Hogarth House, bedroom, night, 1923. Virginia lies in bed, making no effort to sleep, but lying by moonlight in her bed, her eyes open, white like a ghost. Interior of Clarissa's apartment, night 2001. The corridor of the apartment. Everyone else has gone to bed. Clarissa, in her white pajamas, is in the kitchen turning off the lights one by one. She turns off the last one in the kitchen. She comes into the corridor and begins the same process. She looks around briefly at her own home, comfortable, solid, complete. At last, she seems at peace. As she turns out the lights in the corridor, the voice of Virginia Woolf is heard.
Dear Leonard, to look life in the face, always to look life in the face, and to know what it is, to love it for what it is. At last to know it, to love it for what it is, and then to put it away.
Clarissa turns out the last light, and the corridor is darkened. She turns out and goes into her room. Exterior, River Ooze, day 1941. Virginia Woolf walks calmly once more into the river.
Leonard, always the years between us, always the years, always the love, always the hours.
Virginia stands a moment, up to her neck in the water, about to plunge herself under. The sun plays on the water. Fade out.
Thank you guys so much for tuning into our reading. Thank you to the actors, to Rasa, to Olivia, to Vanessa, everybody who stayed tuned and watched. You are so appreciated. For the audiobooks, if you would like to be entered to win an audiobook, you will find the email down below. Just give us an email. It is actforonelife@gmail.com. Now I'm going to go hand it over to the actors to talk about what charities mean something to them. So let's start out with Jessie.
All right. Hi, everybody. And thank you guys so much for organizing this. It's been really fun to be a part of. It struck me this last reading that so much of Clarissa's sadness is past facing, and it's something that I've always resonated with. Even as like a little kid, I would look at pictures of when I was a little bit younger and be like, oh, those days are gone, which is just like laughable now, but it's a pattern of my sadness that comes up over and over again. And so I think art like this and events like this are so important to bring people together and kind of like what Vanessa was saying earlier, remind everybody that they're not alone in whatever they're struggling with. So my charity is the Women's Clinic and Family Counseling Center, which is based in Los Angeles, where I live, and they offer free counseling to everyone, to women, to men, to couples. and it's either low cost or no cost. And it's a charity that I'm fond of because I went to them. They were the first therapy that I felt comfortable seeking out. And so it was important to me to draw people's attention to it and give back a little. Thank you so much for the opportunity to share that.
Absolutely. Thank you. And just so you guys know, if you click on the link in our description, you will find all of these charities listed. All you have to do is click a button and it tells you all the information, how you can support, how you can donate. So let's go ahead and give it to Amber.
Hi, guys. I just wanted to say that I really appreciate Morgan for pulling us all together to do this, and Vanessa for being fantastic and just a joy to work with, and all of the actors and actresses that are involved. Everybody's amazing. I got a little misty-eyed a couple of times. The charity that is really near and dear to me is the Trevor Project. I am a proud member of the LGBTQ community. And when I was a teenager, there really weren't any resources for me. I didn't know what was going on. I didn't know about the kind of rejections and struggles that, the LGBTQ youth faces, particularly living in the South. And I found myself afraid and struggling a lot against what I thought societal norms were, and how I should be feeling and how I shouldn't be feeling living in the area of the South that I live in. So I really embrace this project, the Trevor Project, because they provide crisis prevention and suicide prevention for LGBTQ youth. And it's a resource that I desperately wish I had, that kind of support. And I was very grateful that I had a beautiful group of friends that we all were involved and I was comfortable expressing these things to them. But sometimes you just need that little bit of extra help. And I think the Trevor Project is such a great resource for anybody that's struggling in those marginalized communities.
Absolutely. That's so important. Thank you, Amber. Okay, we'll go ahead and hand it to Ian.
Hello. First of all, I'd like to thank Morgan and Vanessa for organizing this, and honored to participate amongst a talented group of actors and actresses. And I chose to support Strong Minds. It's a charity that helps treat depression at scale in Africa. And this organization actually trains women in African communities to help treat other women suffering from depression. And I have my bachelor's of science in psychology. And the study of psychology in regards to mental health seems almost exclusive to the Western world. And, the system that practices and treats it is still relatively new. And I remember I asked my dad once, who grew up in the Philippines, if there were such things as psychiatrists or therapists, and those didn't exist. Now, the study of mental health isn't even an idea in some countries. So far, Strong Minds has treated 80,000 women in Africa. And it's one of those organizations that are slowly spreading the implementing treatment of mental health in countries where mental health was just an afterthought.
Absolutely. I love that. Sometimes we get in our own bubble and we don't think about that other people don't have these resources. And for people and organizations like Strong Minds to go out there and help those people that are in desperate need is so important. So thank you, Ian, for sharing that. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Tariq.
Hi, everybody. Thanks, like everyone said, thanks Morgan and Vanessa for letting me be a part of this.
desperately miss theater. So this is really something that was really helpful for my mental health. But I chose the Loveland Foundation, which helps mental health for Black women and girls. I come from a single parent household with a single mother who was always the rock, but I never understood that she needed a rock as well. So this is why I'm supporting this foundation. I think Black women are one of the most underrepresented populations in the world. And I think they are so strong and they deal with so much, but they're never really listened to and never have a shoulder to cry on. So that's why I chose this foundation, because it's really near and dear to my heart.
I love that. It's so important to be able to find the right resources. You know, a lot of times I hear people who are looking for therapists and they can't find therapy for them because there's not somebody that understands the issues that they're going through. So that's really important. Thank you, Tariq. So I'll give it over to Jessica.
Hi, everybody. I just also want to say thank you to Morgan and Vanessa and to the actors and just pulling us all together and allowing us to just share our thoughts and our feelings here in front of everyone. Being a part of this project, I suffer with mental health and I denied it for years, until one day I kept waking up telling myself within the first 5 seconds I was going to die. And it's not a normal way to live. I chose to support Strong Minds because it's just so important, especially for women and women of color. And I have friends who are women of color who also suffer from mental health. It's just so important for people to know where to get these resources and to reach out because, as previously stated, you never know who's going through what. And if you tell someone like, I'm going through it too, not alone, we can get through it together and get that stigma out of here, you know, the world will be such a better place. So just from the bottom of my heart, thank you guys so much.
Thank you, Jessica, and thank you for sharing your story. It's so important. We have this, you know, toxic positivity where, you know, people will say, oh, everything's fine. When a lot of us are really struggling, and we need to be open and willing to listen to people and their stories. So thank you. Let's hand it over to Madison.
I know everyone said it before, I'm going to say it again. Thank you, Morgan and Vanessa, for putting this together and bringing us all together. I'm so grateful to have been worked with such talented and compassionate people who have been involved in this project. For this event specifically, I chose to support the JED Foundation, which is a nonprofit that focuses on helping young people with suicide prevention methods and providing resources to college and high school students in terms of mental health. I'm a college student myself. I've had my own mental health struggles, and I have seen in my peers what kind of things we can go through. And again, like we've said before, there's a stigma around mental health that, you know, it's okay to be fine and, you know, you should just keep going. And while, you know, it is good to encourage people, at the same time, we have to admit when we need help. And I think that's something that a lot of young people, they need that support and they need that reassurance. So I love that organizations like the JED Foundation are doing this to support young people.
Absolutely. Thank you. It is. It's just to know that it's okay to not be okay is such a huge thing. So thank you for sharing that. Okay, Jen, I'll hand it over to you.
Hello, everyone. Thanks again to Morgan and Vanessa for organizing and for allowing me to share this experience with all of the wonderful people that have been involved in this project. I think that after a year of isolation during a pandemic, there is no better time to be addressing the challenges that mental health struggles provide to all of us and trying to make it through this time. And I think that this process has been quite healing, and it's been an honor to be a part of it. I would like to flag an organization called Inclusive Therapists. When I look at this website, immediately I see options for languages. I see English and Spanish written on the website. The mission that they have to match people in need with people who either speak language or look like them or think like them or feel like them, have been through something similar, is very present in the actions that you see in this organization. It doesn't seem to just be a tagline, but it seems to be their entire practice. And I think it's so important that if you are seeking help, that you can find someone who shares cultural knowledge or has the same challenge or understands what you're going through a little more than just being matched with a stranger, and maybe can be more empathetic to the struggle that the unique struggle that you're facing. So I really resonated with this mission set and wanted to pass that on. Thank you.
Absolutely. Thank you, Jen. I think what you said is so true, that we really need to know that there's resources out there for everybody, not just, if you're struggling, here's a therapist, this stranger, but to know somebody is out there for what you need them for is so important. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Addison.
Hi, so I chose the Brain and Behavior Research Foundation, and I chose this because I thought it was a very interesting option, because they're actually trying to actively find cures for these mental illnesses. So hopefully one day our future generations won't have to have the same struggles as we did. And supporting mental health is especially important to me because I'm a college student as well. And I know a lot of us are just trying to figure out where we belong in this world. And mental health is a big part of this journey in our lives, and honestly, every part of our life. And I think it's just important to continue to have these conversations, especially as young adults and throughout as we get older as well.
Absolutely. Thank you, Addison. I mean, like you said, it's, you're out there, you're in college, and there's so much going on, especially at that age. So much is happening, especially now during a pandemic. And it's confusing. You don't know where to go or, what to do. And just to know that there's options out there. And like she said, they're actively working on trying to fix these scientifically. So, somebody's out there trying to help you and you don't even know it. So that's really cool. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Lexi.
Hi. Thank you guys so much for doing this and for having me. This is such an important cause. I know too many people who have just passed on way too soon because of depression and these feelings that they just couldn't communicate with anybody. So it's really important that we talk about this and that we make sure that everybody knows that it's okay to feel this way. My charity that I've chosen for this was the Children's Miracle Network. That's a big one in my area in Ohio, where I live. They provide medical care, research, and education. They have a super high rating, which means that all of their money actually goes to the charity. I know that there's a lot of hesitance when it comes to donating sometimes, because you're like, okay, well, how much of this money is really going to help? It's almost all of it. I mean, they pay their staff and a little bit extra. So there's 170 Children's Miracle Network hospitals across the US and Canada. It's all across North America, and they help 10 million kids across North America every year. And that's 32 million treatments per year. And they've raised more than $7 billion over nearly 40 years. So, I mean, they're really long standing, and they've helped so many kids, and they continue to just do so much for individual communities. So that's really my favorite charity.
Thank you, Lexi. That is amazing to have organizations and charities out there that are actively helping the community. And it shows by their longstanding and, all the money that they've raised and helped all of these kids. That's really great.
Yeah, and most of it has been $1 at a time too. So they've really put the work in.
That's amazing. I mean, just think about $1 and how much of a difference that makes.
Right.
So yeah, thank you so much for sharing that.
Thanks so much, Morgan.
Absolutely. All right, I'll pass it over to Avon.
Hello. Thank you, Morgan and Vanessa, for organizing this event. I'm really happy that you picked me to be a part of this because I know a lot of people that's gone through a lot of things. And the one thing that I wish I would have told everybody, that it's okay to, get help, talk to people that that you're really close to, and just stuff like that. Because, it is okay to feel what they are feeling. I mean, I was born with ADHD, attention deficit hyperactive disorder, and in school, it was hard for me. I couldn't really focus as much. And, I kind of felt like an outcast because, everybody grades were amazing. And I always wanted to know why I couldn't just focus. And I couldn't really get help from teachers. And the one thing that I did good that really helped me is that I asked people that I trusted, my parents, even to this day, I asked Morgan for help with ADHD, and they really helped me get through it. But the organization that I picked is Black Mental Health Alliance. They provide therapists to help you and get through it. And honestly, this one really spoke out to me. I'm Black. I live in a society where it's hard for us sometimes. And I really hope that we can lower the standards on the suicide numbers.
Absolutely. Thank you, Avon. That's so important. And thank you for sharing your journey as well, because remember, when you share your journey, somebody out there feels comfortable to share theirs as well. And they also know that they're not alone because, odds are they might be dealing with the same thing as well. And so it's so important to speak out and just talk to each other. So thank you. I'm going to hand it over to Bailey.
Hi, thank you for having me. I'm really thankful for this opportunity, and I'm really happy that I got to be here with you all tonight. The organization that I chose to promote is called Give an Hour, which provides mental health and therapy particularly geared towards military and veterans and their families. And Give an Hour has been recognized as one of the top ranked charities in America. And they also have a program aimed at educating people about mental health and its importance. And I think that's especially good because of mental health is an aspect of our lives and our well-being that isn't as widely understood or acknowledged as other kinds of health. And it can be really hard to talk about, but everyone has to deal with it, and no one should have to try and navigate it alone.
Absolutely. Thank you for sharing that. I completely agree. I mean, if we have an illness that is noticeable, we would have a conversation about it. But when it comes to mental health, people are a bit more reserved to talking about those things. So it's so important. And I love that there's charities out there and organizations out there for certain groups so that you know exactly where to go to. So thank you so much for sharing that. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Rachel.
Hi, guys. Thanks, everybody. It was so awesome to meet you guys virtually and be a part of this. I know, like Tariq said, it helped my mental health as well, just being part of something and performing, even though it was on Zoom. So like Jen, I chose to support the inclusive therapists as well. Just hearing the word inclusive got me right away, because not only do they support people of color, LGBTQ, but what stood out to me was people with disabilities and also the whole neurodiversity spectrum. My sister teaches special needs children. I teach dance to some special needs children. My cousin is autistic. So hearing that really, really spoke to me, because you don't really hear that often, you know, hearing specifically that they support disabilities and those with special needs. I actually have a sticker on the back of my computer that says, be kind, include, and advocate. So just the word inclusive really stood out to me. So I support them for sure.
Absolutely. Thank you so much.
Mm-hmm.
It is. I can't stress this enough. There's so many people that struggle to even find the right outlet. And when they're unsure of where to go to, it's almost another thing on top of their plate to want to give up. And so to talk about these different organizations like Inclusive Therapists, where it deals with everybody, is so important, so they know there is a place to go to. So thank you. Okay, I'm going to hand it over to Grace.
Hello. Thank you, Morgan and Vanessa, and thank you to the cast. You guys are amazing actors, and I'm honored to be a part of something that raises awareness for mental health. It is very important, and it is very important to talk about. So the charity I chose is CDH, which is congenital diaphragmatic hernia. It is a birth defect in approximately 1 in 2,500 births, with over 1,600 babies diagnosed each year. There is currently no known cause, but I'm raising this awareness in memory of my sister, Amanda. She only lived 20 days after she was born, but she's still very important to our family, and I'm happy to help raise awareness to CDH.
That's amazing. Thank you so much for sharing.
Thank you.
It's so great to know about all of these different organizations that I personally haven't heard of. So it's amazing that other people are also getting to hear about it as well, so they can support, help in any way that they can, donate, whatever they can do to help, even if it's just sharing it on social media. It's letting people know that it's there. So thank you so much for bringing awareness to that. Well, thank you, all of the actors, all of you guys that are watching, supporting these charities and organizations, for the people who are suffering silently, and for even supporting yourself by just taking the time to watch this and take care of your own mental health, and to learn more about it. You are amazing. Remember that you are important, you are loved, and you matter, and your voice is heard. We love you, and we thank you, and we so appreciate you for joining us. This video will be saved on YouTube, so if you want to go back and watch it, or if you missed anything, please watch it as many times as you want. Thank you guys so much, and we hope to see you again soon. Bye.